We will have an episode next week, which does mean it's episode 4. So if you guys could please put your hands together, this is new territory for Artosis. He hasn't done 4 episodes of anything, I think, ever.
I hate you so much.
It's a big moment in time. I'm really excited. Well, you know what? Not to counter chickens before we get there, because it is still a week away, so a lot of things can happen. But that'll be at home. We'll have her set up. And then I want to shout out a couple people. I want to shout out Fear Dragon, who for the last 3 hours
He's just lying there wrapped up.
And that's because I'm a garbage human. I don't trust myself to be able to be on a computer alone. So he's like, I'll help you. So thank you to Fear Dragon. Thank you to Matt, who's been putting up with this as well. Dan would never say this, but he is really bad on Discord. So he actually only starts talking to Cobra usually the day before the show. And that means Cobra's knee-jerk reactions to that, because if you ask a pro gamer, if you grabbed all the pro gamers, and you could fit them in my arms just about, you can grab them all over here and you hug them together and you go, what do you guys all want? And they kind of look up at you and they'd go, for things to never change, can we just get it to like the same 3 maps and just have the same 2 builds on every map and every matchup? And if we could just play out the game from there, that'd be great. And then you look at all the pro gamers and you go, you're all fucking stupid. That would be a terrible game. And nobody would like it. And in fact, you guys wouldn't like it. You complain the entire time. And they'd look up at you and be like, you're probably right. And you're so smart. And I'd be like, yeah, I know. And then you put the pro gamers aside. Every time. If you follow them on Twitter, it's one of my favorite, like, I just kind of go into the fridge and I grab myself a Coca-Cola, a little popcorn, and go,
for the round of 16. Keen, of course, plays this Saturday in the round of 16 with TY, SOS, and Stats. And that's at revolution.gg. Excuse me. So you can
Friday, by the way, for everyone outside of Korea. Friday, like night, Saturday morning.
I don't care about those people, Tasteless.
It's literally everyone.
I just called you Tasteless.
You know what's funny about that? I heard you say that and I took it as a compliment too. And I'm like, should I?
I'm too comfortable with you, Jeff.
That's all right.
I'm just when I want someone to shut up, I just call them Tasteless. No Tasteless. It's okay. Shut up.
We make Blake stalkers. You ever jerked off for the 30th time in a day? You know how much satisfaction you get out of 20 through 30? It's 0. That's making Blink stalkers. And it's literally like the first 10 Blink stalkers you make feels great. Everything you make after that, you're like, what am I doing? What does this thing do?
No.
Oh my God, Kevin.
No, I'm okay with it. Trust me.
He's okay
it's fine.
with it.
It's fine, Jeff. No, I honestly, I'm talking about it from a spectator point of view as well.
I don't like nerf is good for the game. It's but I would like a neuro thing at the end where when you lose, he goes, "It's your fault." And I think that should be mandatory.
Oh. You took this a different direction. That would be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do a voice pack.
I think
maybe it'd be transformative actually.
I think it's a good idea. Just make it mandatory in everyone's game. When you lose, it just says it's your fault. But apparently it's going to be like a tiered tournament system based on ladder rank, where you're going up against people of your ladder rank, and like it keeps tiering up until you get people that are 2,000 MMR and above in the Pro Series. So that's
I think he's saying that they're top 8 and 4 people actually got in because they met all the requirements and actually weren't like some other alt account from me who just got stuck in there or something.
Yeah, essentially it's like, all right, here's Parting's 3 Smurf accounts, and then everybody else that qualifies underneath. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's and when NA is kind of like the Smurf zone, even Scarlet, the NA players don't really like bother to play there. It is something that you have to you account, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Parting literally has an account called No WCS for you, so there you go.
You know, god damn it, dude. I love that guy so much. That's so
another
trolly.
one called Points Thief as well. That's my favorite.
He's Points Thief?
I didn't know that either.
I think so, yeah.
Dude, that guy always
so
leaves.
Fucking tired of that. God, on a good day, I'm like 5,500. I'm like, I'm all right. And then on a bad day, I'm 5,200 or whatever, and I still hit Parting. What the fuck? Anyways, what I said is like my.
I don't. You make money when.
Sorry, guys, they told us 5 people are going to show up. There's a lot more than I expected, but thank you. Thank you all for coming. I'm one of the hosts. We're going to talk about Overwatch Remastered and Dan Artosis Demkowski. Dan is one of the hardest working foreigners I've ever seen. So what is it like being the guy that is in charge of making Nick beautiful for us?
It's a weird thing to say because it's like we actually get really good viewership while we watch the lovely tasteless.
I'm getting a little weirded out over here. I think one of the things that stands out, Grant, you're dumb. Get out. Well, bad news for Sean. I prepared a 6.5-minute speech.
That's impossible. Twice in my entire life have I been able to do that. So it's so cool that I'm like 500 now, like after all these years. In StarCraft, it's not like a stable meta that really existed for me. It was cannon rushing and shame given 500 years of cannon rushing.
And that's the kind of tightrope you walk with Brood where I get that. I have an idea. I'm really smart. And
No. You're not, I promise you. So, moving on from that, I feel like American football is doing better now than it really ever has been because Blizzard released a lot of new features, like a musical tasteless and a 35-year-old Protoss man. I mean, American football has been basically the biggest part of my life for about 20 years now. And, you know, I used to play all the time, just practice all the time, try to win tournaments, do my best in the American scene and all. Believe it or not, 20 years in American football. It has been out now. We just had the 20-year anniversary. You know, other than that, just a lot of tasteless in the future.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, for me, something that's just been really wonderful in the last 20 years is like getting bullied and stuff, because getting bullied, that's a lot of fun. It's so great.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you guys, what are some of the experiences you've had with the game, or where has it touched you that has made you feel good? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, no, I'll tell you when I figure that out.
You know, get out of here. Like, get back in the crib. But that does. You guys have a wonderful BlizzCon, and we'll hopefully see you guys over at StarCraft.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pylon Show housekeeping. Thank you all for tuning in, I really appreciate that. So if you're wondering why I'm by myself, Dan is being a little too saucy right now, so I decided to have Artosis executed, and that's the reason I'm able to sleep at night. I should have had a sentient hot dog as my co-host from the very beginning, and Barristan the Bold should eat Cobra so that Rotterdam will be my producer. But this is an important episode. It's an important thing to talk about to set the tone for the season. I want to tell you that the Pylon Show will be about self-deprecating dad pierogies. And what we will do in the future is have 2,362 sponsorships for $8 million each month and be like sponsoring MLG for having an eating competition with self-deprecating dad pierogies, which will be the cutting edge of viewership. And then if you are interested in supporting this content, you can check us out on the Patreon, the Pylon Show there. As per usual, Mexico is our biggest Patreon supporter. The people of Mexico love the Pylon Show like more than Artosis loves grilled cheese sandwiches. So if you want to become Mexico, then give me at least $2 on Patreon, and then you will become Mexico, I promise you. And if you are a Patreon supporter or otherwise, we need to do that fishing trip because I need to launch my entire career as a fishing stripper. I know that sometimes when Big Poppy Jeff gets real, it makes some people uncomfortable, but I think it's really important that if you become a fishing stripper, you got to talk about it. Let's talk about the finances of the Pylon Show. Money and numbers, your guys' favorite, I'm sure. So we have zero money, but we have Dan's will. So that's all we need. I think that's about it for finances. I guess that's all I would say. So that's it. We'll see you guys next week. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to episode 46, 1 year of the Pylon Show. It's a special episode. It's myself, one of my best buds in the whole damn world, Artosis. Dan, it's been a good year.
It has. And look at that. I guess if it's been a year and we're on episode number 46, that means we only missed 6 weeks out of 52 weeks, right?
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
With all the travel we've done. I know we missed the BlizzCon one specifically because both of us were there, and
did one there, to be fair.
Yeah. Did we?
Yeah, at BlizzCon. That was the Pylon Show day 9.
Oh, that's right. We did do one there.
Yeah.
Okay, so never mind. I don't even know where those 6 weeks went, but they're only 6 weeks missed. So that's and it's been a good year. You know, we've done a lot of good things, I think. I'm happy.
Yes, really has been. So I will, you guys are getting the joke now. I will roadmap this episode for you. It is a different one. And then we'll just jump right into it. I was going to say we'll do our introductions, but honestly, Dan and I are going to have a whole episode to talk about whatever the hell we want. So I'm not too concerned with that. But this episode, we're not doing a This Week in StarCraft. You can assume the Pizza Pie Weekly marches on. And there's a whole bunch of AI stuff and all that stuff. This week we're going to spend all of our time with some kind of bigger topics and talk about those things. So one of the topics we want to talk about is the year in review and kind of the Pylon Show, where it stands with us, how we feel about it, some of our favorite memories, that kind of stuff, just how it's grown over time, and just do like a touch base with all you guys to know where we're at with that and moving forward. We do have one round table topic to talk about, and I don't know what the name of this is, but it's something along the lines of kind of that big hate thread that happened this last weekend that was really upset with me, but it's not going to be, well, it'll be an interesting discussion is all I'll tell you. We're going to talk about kind of public optics and what that kind of thread means and that kind of stuff and what it is for us as content producers. Just a little bit of a discussion around that. And then we're going to do a little bit of story time. And this is not really structured. Dan and I did not like research some amazing stories. We're just going to kind of ask each other a couple of things about StarCraft in general. Because people do kind of like it when we reflect on some of the good old times. And I've had a couple questions that we had in our Discord to ask each other about, but we'll see how that goes. And then we'll wrap up and call it a show. So there will be no real breakdown of stuff. We're not going to go over the GSL and whatnot, but next week we assure you we'll be back to business with our regular stuff. We're tentatively planning. I'm not going to put these people on the spot, but Dan was gone for that week, and I know Dan's got some interesting words on this conversation as well. But we want to talk to Azalea and Future about kind of like branding yourself as a young StarCraft player, and specifically as it relates to smurfing on the ladder and that kind of stuff. So I saw Azalea this last weekend at WCS. He's a really funny, awesome young guy. He saw me and started laughing, and he said, "I'm sorry, just when I see your face, I can't help but to laugh." And I was like,
We
I kinda
definitely
like-
need him on the show.
yeah, I looked up and I was just like, huh? And he's like, "I think that's a compliment." And I was like, I'm going to try to take it that way. He just seems like a funny guy. So, and he's really, really positive and chipper and stuff like that. And he seemed open to coming on. So, anyways, if it happens next week, great. If not, we'll try to make it happen in the future. But I think that's an interesting conversation. Yeah, and we're also going to, of course, give some love to our sponsor here in a second. But I've been talking a long time, Dan. Does that all sound good to you?
That sounds perfect to me, Jeff.
Okay,
let's do it.
Very good. Before we get going to the topics, let's talk about our sponsors, of course, because without them, this show does not exist. We need it. We love you guys. We appreciate it. So first and foremost, Matcherino. We've got a special code for you guys today. Now, every day is an international or national day of something, but today is International The Pylon Show Day. So if you go to Matcherino and you put in the code INCTOSIS, one word, so INCTOSIS, you got to put it into the Pylon Show thing, so that'll be in the chat. And then, of course, maybe the show notes will include it, and maybe it'll be in the YouTube. I assume they do that, but anyways, that's how you do it, and it'll contribute to our prize pool and let Matcherino know that the Pylon Show and Matcherino are a good fit. So please do consider doing that. And if you max it out, it won't let you put the code in anymore. But you can do that if you're listening to this now on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. The only reason you couldn't do it is if we max out that code. So please help us out. Please always contribute. Matcherino's been awesome to work with, and they might work with us even more in the future, which is great. So thank you very much. Next up is AFKT. Dan, you still chugging that stuff along?
I am. Excuse me. I am indeed. It's great tea.
It's very good. Lycan's awesome.
Yeah.
The tea's been good. We've actually, and here's how I know it's good, because if it was a bad product and people were buying it and not getting it, I would be getting yelled at on Twitter and stuff like that, and I'm not. So It must be a real thing. And as such, please do continue to support them because they support us, and that's awesome. And you can just purchase it through the links that are all over our show notes and in the chat and that kind of stuff right now. You guys know it by now, but please do consider it. Next up is our Patreon. And this is, you've heard it talked about all year long. We're over 400 patrons, so this will come up later in the show when I talk about the year in review, but you guys are amazing. I'm not even going to give you my normal spiel right now where I talk about how important Patreon is, because you guys have actually been crushing it. That number has really only just gone up throughout the year. And that's actually, I cannot say enough how amazing that is. That means people have contributed and then been like, I'm going to stay contributing each month. And we just hit 1 year. So if you're a $2, $5, all the way up to the $100 baller gods up there, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our heart. I know it's money, and it's weird to talk about money when we make content and play games, but we honestly, like I said, if this just failed, we made this show, then it was like, hit, and then fell off, we would know that this content's not really, profitable, desirable, and worth our time, and we would not be able to do it. But because you guys do support it, Dan and I have no plans other than to celebrate 1 year, the 10-year Pylon StarCraft 3 episode. So with Matt, the father of 9, still producing, but he's producing from his Hollywood home, Alessandra's collecting notes, but from her moon base. And Al has become actually the king of Australia, so on and so forth. There's just all kinds of... The success story that we're going to talk about in 10 years is incredible. And then last but not least for our sponsors, we've got a new sponsor. This is our second sponsored episode with them, and they're looking to possibly work with us more in the future. That is Fitness in the Making. It's really important that you guys check them out. Dan and I want to have a moon base, and we want to have an army of nerds, but it's actually one of the things we haven't talked about. It's not enough to be a nerd. You have to be a hard body nerd in order to be a good soldier for us, because if we're eventually going to overtake League of Legends, and I mean, I assume Overwatch League will destroy itself, but like some of these other games, we need to be able to beat them up, and that means you guys got to get really strong. So check out the app. There is a free 1-week trial. I think Matt's showing it right now. You just click that giant thing that says Start Now, and give it a shot. It's literally free, guys. So I assume every European looks at that and gets pretty excited because it doesn't cost any money. So I need you guys to check that out. It lets them know that, of course, when you sponsor the Pylon Show, people are interested in the product. And hopefully they'll partner with us more in the future. So there it is in the chat. Get hard-bodied, help us take over the world, and you know, the rest will fall into place. So that's it for our sponsors. Thank you, guys.
There we go. Yeah. Thank you for that support.
Yeah. By the way, just as an aside, I am covered in water because someone can Google and tell me I'm dying or something like that. That's fine. But I work out, then I shower, and then after I shower for 10 minutes, I just perspire. Do you do that?
No, because there's nothing terribly wrong with me. That's completely bizarre that you would take a shower and that's what makes you perspire. Do you also perspire at the gym?
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't know what to say about this.
It's okay. It's either... Here's how I'm going to choose to read this. One day I'm going to shed all my skin, and underneath is like some kind of next level mutation of humanity. So that's what's happening. All right. Before we get to the topics, April Fools. We told you guys that Idra and Tasteless would be our guests. You guys are really cool about it. Some of you believed up until the last minute, and I appreciate that you guys have that kind of wanderlust. Idra is happily doing nothing StarCraft related. He has moved on completely. We had an episode with him a while ago. It's in... Actually, I think that one's in my YouTube, or maybe it's Artosis as well. Which one is that in?
I think it's in yours.
Is it in mine?
I'm pretty sure, because it was like kind of the trial before we put the whole show together. I think it's on your YouTube channel.
Okay. We called it The Show, so I think it's on my YouTube channel. But Greg is still a great guy. He's still doing really well, but I don't foresee a time where Dan and I are going to drag him back on a show. It's not that it's like the worst thing in the world for him. I think he would come on, but it's just that I kind of think...
It's not a lot of a point.
Yeah. I think at a certain point you kind of move on, and
yeah,
you know, if we ever do some StarCraft Remastered stuff or whatever, or he expresses interest, then yeah, we'll have him on. But I think as our friend, we're not going to pester him and let that man move on. If he starts competing in like bodybuilding or something like that, I'll get him on a show or whatever. I want to see a big, giant, muscly Greg, but other than that, we're not going to have him back on. And then with Nick, we asked him. He flat out said no. Okay, so that's okay as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let it be.
Yep, that's not a bad thing. There's no drama to say or something like that. It's just that Nick doesn't want to be on a StarCraft 2 talk show.
There's some people that don't want to go on these shows. Like Cyril, for instance. We've asked him a couple times, I think.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to do it. That's fine.
That's okay. The only reason we're telling you guys this is so that you understand that we do want to make you guys happy. We do want to have some of these guests on. But if we just keep telling you that if we tell you an ambiguous thing here, I think you'll keep pestering us about it. We'd like you to respect their wishes and move on. And even as I say this, I know that I'll be asked about it for the rest of my life. But if less of you do, that'd be pretty great. So that's that. Then I think we can talk about this. Let's do the Pylon Show topic first, if you're cool with that, and we'll just kind of talk about how we felt about it. And before I go, if you're comfortable starting, because I've been talking a whole bunch, why don't you... The idea behind this topic is just like this last year, what you've thought about the show, what you've liked, disliked, where you want it to go, any of that kind of stuff, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think this show is doing great. I'm very, very happy with it overall. I think my biggest regret is that we did not just do it before, because we brought this up before, that literally Jeff and I were trying to get it funded for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like really, actually, like lots of emails sent, and we were putting in the effort to do that, having meetings with people trying to get it done, until we finally we snapped and just decided to do it on our own. And the community has been able to fund it to a degree where I think that we're pretty happy with it going on. Obviously, we want more. We're greedy. But yeah, like I think that's kind of my big regret. I'm really happy that we got 46 episodes out in the course of a year.
Yeah.
That's a really great rate. So that's like, what do we, like 6 episodes out? That's just like, so we, about 90% of the time through the course of the year, we're doing the show, right? So that's awesome. We've had so many different guests and topics, and it's done a lot of what I felt like we needed in the beginning when we started. This was part of the argument of why this show needed to exist, was to have.
You see that, Dan?
Whoa.
I knew that was the case. I knew you'd been on more than me, but that's actually really cool to see.
Yeah. 37 episodes.
Fucking Matt put himself in there. Get out of here, Matt.
Cobra Venom, 45 episodes. I love it.
Get out of here.
Wait, did he miss? Oh, wait, no, I guess.
Only Sandra added me, just to be fair. Just to be clear.
That's a really cool graphic, though. Thank you to you. I didn't know that was coming, actually, but it's really interesting. Sorry to cut you off, Dan. That's interesting.
Keep that graphic on. I want to look at that for a second. This is amazing. I love that Cobra's beating us both. Fear Dragon, 8 eps. No regret, 9 eps. Zombie Grub, 7. I guess we see the guests that we like. Roddy, 6, and he lives in Europe. Damn.
Goddamn hero.
Yeah. Maynard at 6. Wow. Yeah.
We got to get... So this is fun to look at. There's a couple that I'm like, how have we only had them on once? Todd and you had the funniest dynamic. We have to get him back on.
I love Todd. Yeah, no, totally. That's... Well, I like seeing that, actually. That's nice. Thank you for putting that up. Kind of forget what I was saying.
But, sorry, I cut you off.
No, I'm very happy overall with like how it's going. What I thought that it needed to do, like we have all these tournaments and everything's kind of fragmented within StarCraft, and there's no like in between where it's like a WCS event occurs and then you just wait and another WCS event occurs, and it doesn't feel like it's a continuous story, or it didn't in previous years. And I feel like we've done something for that. If you want that kind of continuous, we're continually every week talking about what's going on and the tournaments and the results and going over it all and adding that bit of extra discussion. It's like the ligaments in between the muscles of the events or something like that. Yeah. And I'm really, really happy with that. Also the advertising that we do in This Week in StarCraft for everyone's content, I'm really happy with. Yeah. I know that that's a long part of the show, and every now and then people are like, hey, don't do that or something. No, you can just fast forward, because I think that is a big part of what I wanted to get done here, where, we want everyone to be seen and to get their stuff out there and have the best rise to the top. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with it overall. And I think the whole Pylon team is killing it so hard.
Yes.
I can't even imagine. Well, I can imagine, actually, because I made meta for like 30-something episodes, and that was, I had a producer, and then I did like everything else, I guess. And it was really tough to keep it going and keep it smooth, but yeah. I
want to touch on a couple things you said. First and foremost, This Week in StarCraft, it's really funny, because that was kind of like Dan and I always want to do that kind of a thing. But a special shout out to Alessander, who she's just a huge StarCraft fan in general, and that whole segment, for some people it's where they tune out or whatever. It's not for them. That's okay. But for a lot of people, the feedback we got, that's like what alerts them to what's going on in StarCraft. And we've even thought about times where like, this is taking too long, or it's rough on our guests, right? Because our guests just usually sit there and kind of are quiet for the first 30 minutes or so of the show. But I've gotten way more feedback from people saying that part like humanizes StarCraft for them, and they can see everything that's going on, and it gives them a good feeling, and they've checked things out. Cheesadelphia and Pizza Pie Weekly, they've individually came to us and been like, your advertising's actually really helped us, and it's done a lot of good, and that's what we wanted the show to do. So Alessandra doing such a good job going out there and grabbing, almost sometimes too good of a job, right? Like she's like, I found this obscure tweet about a Russian tournament that's going on, and we're like we have no idea what's going on with this, but there it is. Without and she's an unpaid member of our team, like she's just fueled by passion. So thank you to Alessandra, and thank you to you guys as the public as well, again, because this is important to Dan and I, but if nobody else cared, then who gives a shit? But you guys do seem to care, so it's been a really cool part of the show. And then just a couple other things you were talking about too. Like I cannot believe that we did 46 episodes in 1 year. That's actually absolutely amazing. And I was gonna make the joke, but the graphic showed it too, where Dan has, I teased Dan a lot about missing content. He beat me in 1 year. He beat me by 4. And that is, this is my moment to just be like, Dan, tip of the hat. That's amazing.
Thank you, Jeff.
Cobra beats everybody, though, of course.
Yeah, well, the show doesn't turn on without him.
Yeah,
quite if literally. He needs a week off, then that's it. In fact, one of our episode misses, I think, was him like traveling or something. So there you go.
Yeah, one of only like what you said 6, I guess. So
and Jeff and I would have been here, but Cobra took it off. So I think our numbers should each go up by 1 while his stays the same.
But that's just it's amazing. And then for me and my thoughts on this show too, the feedback, and I've said this a few times, but just to take this is the show to say this again. The feedback that we've gotten about this show has been stellar, absolutely incredible. People have, and it's been actually really crazy too, because I've been getting people from outside of StarCraft that tell me that they know about the Pylon show and that they're happy that it exists, and it's something that a lot of people watch. A lot of Blizzard people watch this show too, which to me is really important and cool, because Dan and I do not hold back on this show. Like we're really we have our opinions, we have our feelings, and I think if this show was just a mouthpiece to fillet Blizzard up and down, which kind of ends up happening anyways because we love the game and the community so much, but at the same time, if we can't be real and we can't be pretty straight up, I wouldn't like the content. This is not, I wouldn't be here. And ultimately, we talked about this before, but that's why we ended up not going with being sponsored by Blizzard, because once we saw the paperwork and they were like, here's the laws you have to live by, that was not the show we wanted to make. And no hate to Blizzard, it's just that, of course they have to protect their content and stuff too. So that was the way that went. And I like it, because back in the day it was State of the Game, and I was a younger, probably, I would just flat out say worse content producer, I would say. I would make some jokes and be too silly and be too aggressive. It was tough to do shows, because it's tough to put your opinion out there, because some people will really dislike you for having strong opinions. But I can honestly say, a year of doing the Pylon show, I haven't had anyone really attack me for what I've said on the show. And if they did, that would be okay. It's not like I would immediately stop doing it. But for me, that's been nice, because that tells me the honesty, the vibe, the kind of content we're making here is working. Like people disagree with us, but they don't feel like they need to hate us or whatever. It's been a just open and honest and good show, and it's been really positive. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and I think people have really fond memories of State of the Game, and that was a great show. But I kind of really like that it's you and me doing this, because we're the ones that lasted from that show. If you look at the entire cast that was normal, like Day9 was on there a lot, Idra, Noni was on there a lot,
JP.
Right? JP. Those guys aren't really in StarCraft anymore. I mean, they pop up from time to time, and we love to see them and everything. But you and I just never stopped, and it's kind of nice. It's in many ways the successor of that.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever will until nobody else cares about StarCraft, and then even then maybe we'll just keep going.
We'll keep going as long as Cobra will have us here.
Yes. This is the other time too I want to give pull the curtain back and shout out some people as well. Gamers can be hard people to work with, but we're so lucky in StarCraft, because and by most I'm just being scientific, I actually can't think of a guest that was a real big pain in the ass, to be honest with you. All of our guests have been awesome to work with. Like some are like, no, it's too late, or maybe next week or whatever. But if that's the worst that we have to deal with, we're doing pretty great. So like that graphic that showed everyone that was on, these people were awesome, and it was really, really cool. I wouldn't call it a regret, but I would say the only thing that like gives me a little bit of pause is I'd love it if we had more StarCraft Remastered people on. And it's like I said, it's not a regret because you've heard me lament this before, but like I want to have them on to talk about ESL 4, or I want to have them on to talk about the next holiday bash that's coming up and stuff like that. We'll always have StarCraft Remastered on the show. We'll always talk about it. I wish there was more to talk about. Is my strictly from the foreigner scene. That's my wish. But these people are great. They're all really great. And I think the more you see someone on, that is partially reflecting how great they are, to be honest. This is not like a straight up ranking, and I'm not trying to hate on anybody else, but like Fear Dragon's always down to come on. I like that he's willing to disagree. I almost said disregret because I was looking at No Regret's name. That doesn't surprise me. He's been on 9 times. He's ended up being a stellar guest. I love having him on. He disagrees too much, so we tease him about it, and he doesn't get butthurt. He's just like, he just rolls with it and is funny and awesome, and what a personality he's ended up being.
Yeah, he's great. Like I made that show with him where we go over replays now because I talk with him. So he reminds me of a younger version of myself where he's just like so into StarCraft. He just wants to talk about it all the time and like play it and watch everything. And I'm like, yeah, a great person. And I'm glad that he's been on a lot.
And we'll always, the only, like one of the, I don't know, the funny things about the show is like, I want to have all these people back on, and I also want to find new people to have on the show at all times. So we'll keep trying to do what we can to have new people on and shine the light on them, but also have some of these people back on. Vibe was great. Livy B was great. Like I said, Todd, that was some of the hardest I've ever laughed on a show. So we'll do what we can. And you guys out there, I sometimes tease you too much, but also if you want somebody on the show, make sure and voice it and let us know who you like and who you want and someone for us to think about. Because some of our guests I didn't think about, and then someone was like, hey, what about so-and-so? And I was like, oh, shit. How have we not done that? If you do say taste us a whole bunch, which I know a bunch of you will, I'll do that like polite thing where I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And then never going to happen. Last thing I want to say kind of about the show, and just to make note of this, is the 1-year show, is thank you. Of course, like I said, just thank you to everyone. But one of the things I like about the show too is the full breadth of this show. I think to a couple of episodes, like Dan's speech about the firings with Blizzard was very profound and powerful with how frustrated and angry you were. All of us holding back tears talking about the passing of John Bain. That was an episode that was like really difficult, but to have a platform to be able to celebrate some of these people and celebrate these moments is one of the coolest things for me, because it just feels kind of weird when some of this shit happens and we just tweet it. We're just like, that thing sucks. And then it just goes out there. The next day we all move on. But by having this platform in the show to show our love and show how important some of this stuff is, means a lot. So thank you guys for supporting that. Damn, it's still hard to talk about. Anyways, thank you. So that's our quick Dan and I just saying thank you and going through a few of those things. The Pylon Show in review. As always, in the YouTube comments, if you guys have any questions or things that we missed or you want to talk about your memories or whatever, let us know. And then we, of course, have our Discords and stuff like that. That's where the conversation can continue. And then we have some fun and exciting developments. I guess as a last thing, we should talk about our website, because this is a beautiful, amazing website that more people in the Pylon Show are working on. I'll say that, okay, I'll do this, and I guess the appropriate people on the team can say that they hate me if I did this wrong, but we have some people working on a forum for the website as well. So no pressure. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If it does happen, that's pretty cool, because that'll be another place where you guys can specifically talk about the show or what we talk about. And then that conversation can be, I'll always jump in there and talk. And I'm trying to do a better job of being less angry old Jeff, where I pop in and yell at somebody and then pop out, and more of a like converse and talk with you guys and treat you like human beings. So that's something that's coming. But the Pylon Show website has been amazing, and everyone involved, Matt and the whole team making that. Thank you guys. That's where the Patreon Q&A got funneled much more beautifully. The VODs are up. There's a clock where it shows when the next show is coming. And that's one of the developments that's being worked on right now, so that you guys can have a place to talk about this more directly. Because sometimes it gets lost in a Discord or on YouTube comments. So that's cool.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, everything's lost on YouTube comments.
I know. Dan does not moderate his YouTube comments. I know.
Not even a little.
Because there's always like two guys. There's one guy's like, I hate this show. And it's just like, that's all they say. We're like, okay, well, why are you here? Anyways.
Thank you for taking the time to say that, I guess.
YouTube, I don't know. That is when that tradition started, where there's just people are like, well, I've had a shitty 6 years of my life. So tonight, I'm hopping on YouTube. And I'm just... I'll tell you what.
Know.
Yeah, I'm going to get in there. I think there's a music video comment section that I can really go ham on. And I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Anyways, thank you to you guys. So let's talk about, let's do the thread talk, and then let's end on the happier note of our story time. I think that's probably the better way to do it, as opposed to ending this episode talking about a hate thread. So I'll introduce it, and then Dan, you can give your thoughts or whatever. Just to be clear, though, and this is not going to turn into like Jeff does everything right and doesn't deserve criticism and everyone's wrong and I hate Reddit and everyone's stupid. Like, that's not actually the purpose of this. It's kind of an interesting foray into just like what it means to be a content producer and what a day like that can be. So over this weekend, WCS Winter went down, NA and EU. And there was a free-for-all just before the grand finals of the NA WCS Winter Finals. And the free-for-all was for nothing. Blizzard offered up like a sweatshirt, I think, to the winner or something like that. But it was actually, to pull back the curtain for people, the free-for-all was because they projected the overall broadcast to be pretty short. So they wanted to have some time filler in there, which literally means it had no purpose except to take up time. But when they tell the players this and they announce the public that, they're beholden to it. So the broadcast ended up actually going long for various different reasons. And then the free-for-all was promised to be capped at 45 minutes before they were going to pull the plug on it, with no rules whatsoever. So immediately there's like 3 or 4 alliances, some people playing off races. There was light talking smack in the game. It was on a gigantic map that went the full 45 minutes, etc., etc. So this is the part where you'd expect me to make excuses. I'm not going to. I did a shitty job commentating. I was really tired and quiet. My humor, which is dry, was not gelling well with Zombie Grub, who decided to, I think, compensate for my dryness by being overly cheery, which is super weird for her, but that's what she did. And it ended up being kind of an awkward, bad broadcast, of which I take full responsibility. That was, like I said, it's a bad broadcast. If I could go back in time and do a different style and put more effort into it, I would. The full explanation is just that it was shitty. And it was my fault. But at the end of the day, it was just a bad broadcast of a free-for-all. The other 2 broadcasts I did that day were fine. Nobody had any complaints. It was really good. And then the next day, I think I commentated even better. So that day, a Reddit thread went up that got 399 comments before a moderator closed it down. It had only 164 upvotes, but even that on StarCraft 2 Reddit is a decent amount. And the content of that thread was anywhere from Jeff must have been mad because he's not commentating the finals, to he needs to get over his divorce that he's going through, to I've hated him for 10 years, to everything. Like everything you can imagine. It was really, really, really bad. So that's the introduction. Before I give my piece, Dan, go ahead and talk about what you want to say.
Okay. Well, it was one of the worst threads I've ever read. It was like just the lengths to which people were psychoanalyzing you and like deciding why the commentary was poor or something was so cringe and so like off base. It was just like mean and hateful. It was shocking to see, because we haven't had a thread like that in a long time.
Yeah.
The first thing that jumped in my mind is like, oh, the witch hunts are back. Like StarCraft, we've all been talking about how happy we were to have StarCraft growing again, right?
Yeah.
Well, something that comes as the game gets bigger are these witch hunts. We had a very kind of small pocketed group of active people on StarCraft Reddit for a long time, but definitely some of the trash is coming back. Unfortunately, you're the one that had to eat that the first time I've seen it back in a long time, but it was over the top
to that degree.
Like, yeah, it was. There were some mean things in there. And I mean, I don't personally like free-for-alls either. When we did the 20-year anniversary, they made us cast some free-for-alls and stuff, and I'm just like, no one actually plays these, and no one actually likes these, so this is weird. Whereas the Twitch Rivals, if you want to fill time, here's something for whoever's putting together these tournaments and deciding. The way Twitch Rivals did it, where you're playing use maps or like micro challenges or something like that, that's actually entertaining and can be competitive and stuff. Free-for-alls are not where it's at. It's just really, truly not. No, like seriously, I don't know anyone that plays them, and I don't know anyone that watches them, and it's. So I kind of feel you in that regard. That's as far as StarCraft modes go, that's what I would least like to commentate out of all the different commentary modes, right? Out of everything that can be played. That's. Yeah.
So there's a few things to go through on this. So there, in the comments of the chat, we're already seeing a couple of this. There's people. And actually, Wax Angel went in on this on Twitter as well. He's like, well, just because there's a lot of hate doesn't mean you can't take things away from a thread like that. The weird thing about those kind of comments is that thread doesn't then become productive, or that way of like things taking off is not good. Like, I don't want to sound too conceited, but if you think that I don't know about a bad broadcast, or like if you don't yell at me hard enough, I won't do a better job, just that kind of like idea or mentality for a content producer is really toxic and bad. Like, I'm going to have bad broadcasts for various different reasons, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's okay. It just means that I'm commentating every weekend, and I'm streaming in between all the time. I'm on camera like 60 hours a week. So there's just going to be shit. I'm going to say some bad jokes. I'm going to not have a good commentary. And it's totally okay to be like, hey, that was not your best, or I didn't like that, or whatever. And I'm not saying that you can never criticize me. I'm just saying, when there's people like going ham on me in a thread like that, for someone to be like, well, some of the comments were really needed to be said. I think that's a weird mentality to try to maintain, because that would be like, I didn't like Dan at the GSL, so I'm justified in tweeting at him right now that I thought he did a terrible job. And if other people tag in on this and start making fun of his family and speculating that he's actually
well, that's where it goes too far, is the crazy speculation that people put into there. It's like, I think you can definitely make threads and give criticism and stuff, like these are all fine, but when it gets like so far over the top that people are like making up entire stories about your life and why there was poor commentary in a free-for-all at the end of a day, I'm like, it's that's where the line gets crossed, very obviously. And if anyone wants to argue against that, you're dumb, and I don't want to hear you.
I know. So what that thread revealed, which is what Dan was talking about too, is that it's actually been really, really nice for a long time. Like, like Dan said, there hasn't been a thread like that for a while. StarCraft 2 Reddit's actually become a place that a lot of us can kind of visit and read. And sure, there's always going to be toxicity, but whatever. It's the internet. That's never going to go away. But it's still mostly pretty positive and pretty nice. But if something gains momentum, and that's kind of part of the reason why we moderate the ThePylonShow stuff really heavily. I moderate my personal stream, or I have wonderful moderators that do that. But even Reddit threads too. If something is allowed to gain momentum and get pretty gross, it just will online. So that thread, it's not that there's thousands of people that really dislike me, or that I did something super over the line bad. It's just that the attitude and vibe of that thread was allowed to kind of go crazy. And that's why in other threads, it is not like that, right? There's threads where, because it's not like that's the first time anyone's been like, I don't like Jeff's commentary. For God's sakes, you guys, I get it all the time. But a thread to turn into what that happened is something special. So that was the part that was kind of eye-opening for me, was because I've said some stupid ass jokes. I've had way worse commentaries. I've done dumber stuff publicly, and I did not get a thread like that. So it's hard for people to be like, well, if you fuck up a free-for-all, I'm really going to go ham on you. I don't think that was the case, right? It was just more of a like, those people still exist. It started to happen, and then it snowballed because nobody stepped in and stopped it from happening. And then what's funny about it is literally we moved on. The next day, good day of commentary, better games.
Yeah.
And there was actually several threads being like, the commentary did great. WCS EU was wonderful. Then we all moved on. So people are asking, why are we talking about this now? It's more just to kind of give you a full perspective on like what it is to be a content producer and
Yeah.
to hopefully educate a little bit of the public as well. Because nobody can stop that, by the way. I'm not sitting here being like, if it happens again, I'm pulling the plug on the Pylon Show. No, I'm going to keep on doing my thing.
Also, don't forget that this is the Pylon Show, and like this is something I think we've been very good at. We haven't shied away from any controversy, and I
Always
think
talk about it.
if the controversy this week was about you and we didn't talk about it, that's where we would actually get a bunch of shit. So,
yep.
When my turn comes on the chopping block of StarCraft Reddit, we'll bring that up as well.
Yep. No, and that's the exact comment. There's also a few people in the chat that are like, "Why are you guys talking about this on the show?" Because we won't shy away. We'll talk about this stuff, and it gives people perspective, and it's interesting. But also, at the end of the day, it's our show, and this was something that was very real for me. This was there was a lot of people that said really nasty stuff, and it's important for me to kind of show you my face and be like, "Here's how I took it. Here's what it's like to be in my position," and moving forward, we move on, and that's kind of the end of the topic. We don't. Like I said, we're not going to sit here and be like, anyone that dislikes my commentary is wrong and I hate everybody or something like that. Nope. I gave a shitty broadcast. People got upset. The thread went a little bit too ham, and life moved on. And that's okay. So that's that.
Yeah.
All right. So that's that topic. And again, if you have comments that go deeper than just why are you talking about this after we explained why we talked about it for a long time, then let us know. But otherwise, we'll just move on. So let's do some story time. We had a couple of questions that we posted in our Discord to think about and talk a little bit about. And this is more of like the old StarCraft, or it can be, of course, what's going on right now as well. And then we will move into the Q&A. So if you're a Patreon supporter and you haven't asked your question, and some of you asked questions to Idra, so unfortunately, yeah, I know.
I feel bad now. That's too bad. Sorry, guys.
There's a couple. They got excited about
Jeff, you went too far with that April Fool's Day announcement.
I didn't think so until there's a few people who were like, Jeff, if this is a troll, I'm going to feel real bad. It's like, okay, I get it.
Well, to be fair, Jeff, I have to say, because every year, April 1st, I almost don't even want to log on because people are so bad at even making April Fool's jokes, right? Like really, truly bad. That was a good one. Because that's actually within the realm of possibility, and that's something people really do want.
Yep.
And it was announced for this week, not even that week. Oh, like that was actually a good one. The fact that people actually felt a little bit sad about it, quality right there. I like it.
It was well manufactured, because it was even the 30th or whatever it was, the day before the 1st, that I said tomorrow we're announcing some special guests.
Yeah.
And then people were like, well, that is April 1st, but he's saying it now, so I think it's anyways. It was we got some of you guys pretty good, so we're starting. We'll just keep trying to make great content.
I think you did a good job with that.
Well, thank you, sir. All right, so Matt, pulling up the questions here. Dan, I'll ask you the first one. And I think we've talked about this before, but it's just kind of, again, an opportunity to reminisce. Favorite events as a player/caster?
Favorite events. So, yeah, we've talked about this a little bit before, but I mean, okay, so let's go with caster first.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've talked about the 2012 European WCS Championships because I think overall that was just a magical moment. But some of the other things that I've like truly loved, where I'm like, oh, I want to do this for my entire life. I mean, obviously, some of the old days, like MLG days, were really fun because we were all seeing each other every like month or something. Like everyone would get together for these gigantic tournaments. That stuff was great. And stuff like I haven't done many of them like you, but like seat story type cup type things. And very specifically the those events that we did with Sean and Nick, Day 9 and Tasteless, all those Brood War events we did. I think we ended up doing 4 of them. Can't have more fun than that. That's that's peak Artosis there. It's that and literally playing in tournaments. Those are the 2 most fun things in my entire life. So those are really, I'm so sad that there haven't been more of those Brood War ones. I guess, getting insane views for very little money is probably not a worthwhile venture anymore within esports now that publishers simply pay for everything, and that's how all the money's made. So it's too bad, because as far as costs put into viewership, it crushes everything, including WCS, right? So it's like, okay, but that, for me, that was, just love it. What about you, Jeff?
So yeah, I think we've talked about it before, but just to, or maybe if I haven't specified, but like StarCraft, I think one of the coolest things about it is that it's been around. So you've been playing it since this time as well, and I have, but like I was 11 years old when I started playing it, and StarCraft is just ingrained into it. Like, it identifies certain parts of my life. And one of the coolest things I've ever done, at least in my rose-tinted looking back glasses, was a couple trips to Korea. And it was literally, I'm stalling because I'm trying to remember if this was one of my first trips. I don't think so. But it might have been my first
trips overall.
International trip.
Yeah, because the World Championships that you went to for WCG was in Seattle, if I recall correctly, right? So yeah, wait, no, you went to Pan America before that,
which was Mexico. So I think that technically is my international trip, but like never Europe. Certainly. Oh, you know what? I went to China. Never mind. I went to China when I was much younger for a basketball tournament. So that was really cool too, but that was different. The was it WESG, that tournament?
No, it was IESF.
Or IESF, that's right. So it's a Brood War tournament.
I believe it was IESF, yeah.
Myself, Machine, G5. Who else from our group went?
There were 17 foreigners that got to go.
Yeah.
This is one of my crowning achievements.
Retorp went there.
Yeah.
White Raw was there. Like Idra. Like, it was just this huge group of people.
Everybody, man. It was like Phoenix,
the Peruvian player.
Demaga. Sen, and so many.
So many.
God. It was so wonderful.
But that trip was one of the most fun, best things I've ever done in my life. And a big part of it was like the stars aligning to make Korea as special as it was. Because again, for us as Brood War guys growing up, Korea was like, to call it the Mecca is pretty on point. It's the holy city of like, this is where everything StarCraft comes together. I went there. I played against some of these guys like Ever and PJ and Bisu and like some of these players that I idolize quite literally. And at that time, were actual celebrities. Like when I played with Bisu, my jacket was on his chair, and I did my typical bad dad Jeff joke where I was like, he was like going to sit down, and I was like, "That's my jacket," and he's like, "Oh," and like, he didn't speak any English, so he just like looked at me scared because I just was like, "That's my jacket." And then I was joking like, "Don't worry, I'll take it away." And he's like, "Whatever, white man." And but there was like 6 cameras on him because they were filming a documentary at the time too. And this is like vintage Jeff, so I'm wearing like cargo pants and probably a tank top. And Bisu's like a designer fucking Korean model man with the camera crew behind him. And he beat me so goddamn hard. He beat me with like the first 3 zealots, which is like, I know for a lot of you will be like, well, Jeff, you're not very good at StarCraft. That's fine. But back in Brood War, I was actually legitimately very good. But the Koreans were not like Koreans in StarCraft 2. They were actually this untouchable level. And Bisu was actually the best Protoss. So it was just like, it was a weird feeling where I was like, I'm really good. I'm ready for this. And then he beat me so hard and so effortlessly and so easily with the first like 3 units that I was like, you're a god. I will never touch you. This is incredible. But it was an amazing experience even then. And then some of the things that happened at that tournament that were not Brood War related, but again, Korea and Brood War people. Rec Rule, a name that some of you will not, I mean, it's better to describe it as some of you will know who I'm talking about, most of you will not. He was a former Brood War pro, who at the time was like a pretty successful Korea poker player. He put us up in a hotel just because he's a baller. That was like $5,000 a night just to basically show off. But this is for us, and for me at the time, I think I was in college, so I like worked at Jamba Juice where I got paid like $285 every 2 weeks or something.
So I got a little correction for that story.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't $5,000 a night. I mean, it was not cheap because it was like a giant hotel room that all the nerds could fit in, and it was like at the Coex Mall and stuff, so it was like really beautiful. The Oakwood premiere for anyone who knows it, but specifically Reckrell and I had made a big bet.
Oh,
he bet that he could beat me at Street Fighter 4.
I like it. I did not know this at all.
This is a little side thing, right? Now I was very poor, but I was certain, because I was actually pretty good at Street Fighter 4 at that time. Like there was a lot of arcades with it in Korea, and I played a lot, and I loved Street Fighter 4. So like I got, obviously not like a pro or anything, but
keep going, Dan. I'm just gonna ban.
Reckrell wasn't gonna beat me at Street Fighter 4, so there was a big money bet. I forget how much money, but it was like a lot, right?
Yeah.
And like the countdown was ticking down. And so basically when it came to that hotel, he turns to me, he's like, okay, I give up. I'm not even going to play. I'm not, because he wasn't practicing for it, right? It was like one of those bets that you make, then it's coming and you're like, fuck this. He's like, but I'm going to use the money you were going to win for this hotel room.
Oh.
And I was like, all right, that's fine. So yeah, a little fix there for that story.
That's funny.
That
was
an Artosis Reckrell joint hotel room for everyone.
But I love this story, right? Because in my mind it was $5,000 a night or whatever. But you're like, nah, there's a Street Fighter bet going on behind it or whatever. But that was cool. This is also college, so this is back when I thought drinking was really fun and awesome. So we went out and we went to a hookah bar that these guys frequent without us. You know, the back then would frequent or whatever, and that was just awesome sitting there late at night, because Korea also is like one of those cities that just doesn't sleep. So we were partying until the wee hours of the night. And then we went drinking at a nice restaurant. And I'm not even kidding you guys, I probably went to Korea with like $85 in my bank account or something like that. Like it's, to think about it now, it gives me like, I'm like, oh, Jesus. I'm like really uncomfortable. Like, who? But back then, that's just how we fucking rolled. And we took care of each other, which is really fun. It was like no big deal for me to look at G5 and be like, do you buy, you want to buy this beer? Or I can't really. He's like, yeah, man, no, let's just do it. And what's funny about this trip too, and this is part of the reason why I love telling the story, is I got bounced out of the tournament. I think I lost to, literally in our group. Well, so PJ smashed me. I want to say Legend smashed me, like LX. I had this like hilarious group of like ridiculous players. Bisu smashed me, and then I was supposed to play Effort, who you guys still know because he's a god right now as well. But he was literally winning the group so hard that the last match didn't matter, so he forfeit. So I beat Effort, but I didn't even play him. And I was like, dude, I traveled all the way to Korea to play against you. And I had this like 4-pool build I was going to do, or that was going to be my plan or whatever. And he like had it translated to him, kind of nodded and was like, no. But we started playing bet matches. So we played like $5, $10 games against other foreigners. And I fucking kid you not, I smashed everyone for the most part. And I made something like $200 or $300 that I then spent on my trip. Like I just beat everyone over and over again, had the best games of my life, and just came away from it with enough money to pay for my dinners, to pay for my taxi cabs, to get back. And it was so cool. And as I'm telling this, I just remembered another story that I think I haven't told. So I'm going to tell that in a second, though. But don't let me forget. It is the taxi ride I took with Skew back from New York. Do you remember this story?
Vaguely.
You don't then. There's no way to vaguely remember the story.
I remember that there is a story.
That's what you remember. Okay.
That's what I remember.
It's the story I don't think I've ever told to the public, actually, you guys. And it is incredible.
I want to add a couple things about that event, though. Right? Do you remember me getting my foot run over?
No, I don't.
You don't remember this? We came out of that hookah bar.
I kind of do now, right? Like a car just drove by.
Like, well, he backed up without fucking notifying anyone and rolled over the back of my heel with his tire.
Yeah.
Ripped skin off my heel and stuff. I was so angry, and like, I think Phoenix grabbed me and held me back because I was like punching his window because I was so pissed, and he just drove off. And I'm sitting there, I have no money, just like you, no health insurance. I'm like, luckily it wasn't like permanent damage or something.
Oh yeah, nothing. Even.
But I was paranoid around cars for like months after that.
That's so funny. Now that you say that, I remember that actually, like, I remember the scenery of it. It was like a white sedan or some shit just backed into you. Yeah. And you and I rate. One of my other, was it? Oh, yeah. So one of my other favorite memories of this, I can't remember what it's called. You'll know this word. I don't. There's a type of dance club in Korea. What is that called? Where the guys sit in a room and they drag girls and throw them in there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, those are called Booking clubs.
Booking club. Jesus Christ. Anyways, Rec Rule again showing off, unless I'm about to be told there's a bet here too. Took us to this thing. And we are cripplingly nerdy Brood War kids who, again, I'm probably in cargo shorts, and maybe my nice shirt is like a nerd shirt that makes some lame joke or whatever, a graphic tee type of thing. We're sitting in this room, and, you know, Rec Rule's wearing like $1,000 silk fucking poker player shit. Yeah, sweatpants maybe. Actually, probably literally. And this thing is, the bouncer guys go out there. There's like people just minding their business, dancing around, and they grab pretty girls and quite literally drag them to this room, kind of shove them in there and close the door. And people think this is funny and cool. It was such a weird experience for me because it's like the girls are horrified. Some people are like on board with it because, I mean, they all know what's happening, but they want it to be a room full of Korean men so they can at least talk to them and relate. When they get thrown into a room and it's a bunch of white dudes, and they're like, oh my God. It was so weird. It was one of the weirdest and most awkward things. There's no inappropriate joke to be made here. There's no cool story. It's just that was what happened. And it was fucking weird.
There's some different things out here, no doubt.
Yeah. That was an amazing trip. That's my favorite as a player, I think, because it was so formative for me. I since then went back to Korea to try to qualify for GSL, and I stayed with Dan and Tara, and that was an amazing, just fun trip. I was introduced to spicy ramen there, which is like the best drunk food you can ever have, I think.
Cheesy ramen is amazing.
And just Korea is just awesome. And that was kind of, I think, I mean, Brood War is already like in my blood, but these trips and being able to be near Korea and be alongside my best friends and talk about this stuff with all of them, it was never going to be anything else than this is what I do for the rest of my life. Amazing. As a commentator, I think I agree with Dan where it's like those events we just did with, well, not even just did at this point in time. It's crazy. It's like time has flown by, but the holiday bash and just all those things, getting to hang out with Nick, Sean, Dan, and a lot of our buddies that like Greg coming out and seeing him just do so well. Even Huck, that was so fun. Huck was super chill, willing to like joke and laugh. We discovered the mystery of the pork chop at the EG house. We solved that. It was really cool. So as a commentator, those are my favorite events. And then I get to cheat a little bit because in one of them I did take second to fucking Draco, which is
that was epic. Yeah,
that was insane. I played pretty well, and the fun thing for us too is, and we experienced this a little bit with like Todd's caster tournament, competing even if it's for almost nothing. It's still in our blood. It's still really, really cool. Like I really enjoyed seeing how intense you were, Dan, at like that tournament and trying really hard. And of course, I was trying as hard as I could. Like, I hope we get to keep recreating that. That was really fun.
That would be nice. Those were truly fun times, no doubt.
Yeah. Okay, so the random story that I just remembered. Way back in the Brood War days again, and Dan and I have told you the legends of Skew. I don't know if any of you guys, if it's stuck with you. There's not really a way to tell the stories of Skew and have that stick with you, but just you need to know he's one of the craziest motherfuckers that we've ever met in our entire life. And I think he's also
one of the greatest non-Korean StarCraft 1 players ever.
Yeah.
Unbelievable mechanics.
Who could never turn it into tournament results.
Yeah, no, he had like anxiety or something about playing live, but like
in practice, he was like one of the only guys who could keep up with Idra and stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, Idra went to Korea, but if Skew had wanted it, it would have been him.
Yeah.
Like, he was actually, at that time, I think he was the best. He was so good.
Oh, yeah. Earlier on, I think he was better than Idra. Idra in his prime, I think, was always better than Skew.
Yeah. I mean, once he was in Korea for a bit, no one could touch him.
So, WCG, and these are names that don't mean anything to you guys, but just again, in our show, I'll just say it, but like Paul Brewer, Aaron Schmalik, some of these guys at WCG were really, really awesome, and they hooked us up a lot, and they made Brood War stuff happen. So if you did well enough in WCG finals, you just got to go to this other tournament in New York called like the WCG. What was that even called?
US Open.
US Open.
Yes.
It's like the top 8 guys or something like that played in another tournament, and that's where we had some of our...
You won the 2006 one, I think.
Not 6, because before I was in the finals, but 7, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I won one. Dan split the finals, or you won it?
Yeah, I won the second one, and then because Paul Brewer liked you because he was a jock, you got to go to Pan America instead of me, which was Really super fair. Fuck that guy.
Whoa. He's
Yeah.
a good guy. Anyways.
Yeah, he's a good guy letting you have my spot at Pan America.
These tournaments, I love these stories though, because this is like Dan and I, cheap ass nerds who, like, one of the things is like, I remember him talking to me. He's like, "Can you get here?" Because we didn't even get flown to these things. You had to get yourself to these tournaments. So I like scrounged the money together to get there, but I like had to barter with him. I was like, "If I come, I need you to give me something." He's like, "All right, let me ask around." And he was like at the Samsung store, and they're like, "We can give him a TV, I guess." So he's like, "If you come here, I'll give you a TV." And I was like, you know, like me now would be like, "How do I get that home?" I don't fucking care. But me back then was like, "I'll carry that shit on the on the plane. I don't have a TV. This is great." So yeah, I was like, "Yeah, I'll go." And he fucking handed me like a, you know, at the time it was a big screen, but whatever that is, it's like 40-inch screen TV. And I had the box and I like carry it home or whatever. I don't even know how I got that shit home. But anyways, great tournaments. We've had great games there. It was really fun. But again, no money to our name. So we had to share taxis with each other and stuff like that. And one of the guys that hooked us up there, because again, we can't really afford hotels or something, was Slog4, which is a name that a lot of you don't know who that is, but he was very important to us. Good friend. Went on to do poker, I think it was. But he lived in
doing well professionally in poker out in Asia right now.
Of course he is. He's a smart former Broodwar guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the Bronx, and then we would like subway in or whatever it was into the city to play this tournament at a Samsung store. Like it's all so silly. But I'm so glad that we did it. Great tournament. I'm not going to spend this whole time telling stories about it, but at the end, Skew and I, he hooked us up. Slog's like, "I ordered you a taxi. It's the Korean company." Because there's apparently Korean taxis there that literally are just for Korean people. But they're all like,
I remember this story now.
They're all like related and they know each other and shit, and it's some great discounts. So like the thing pulls up at 3 a.m. and Skew and I like get onto this black van taxi, and Slog's like speaking in Korean to the driver, and the driver's yelling back at him, and they're yelling at each other in Korean. And I'm like, "Hey, Slog, is this paid for, man? Because we don't have any money." He's like, yeah, you're taken care of. Don't worry. We're like, okay. Door closes. Van pulls away. It's me and Skew in the middle, in the back of this van. And the driver turns to us and is like, "Hey. He's like, "You guys like big dicks?" And Skew and I look at each other, and Skew turns and looks at me. And he has the most fucking murder face on. Like, he's just like... He's like, his eyes could cut through my head because he was never more sure of anything than he was in this moment, that the answer to tell this guy was yes. I'm way into big dicks. So I'm like still absorbing what's happening because I think we're about to get killed. I don't know what's going on. Like, you don't ask somebody that. It's weird as shit. Skew looks at me with these eyes, looks back at the driver and says, "Yes, I am into that." Guy hits a button. TV starts coming down. Again, I'm still just trying to process what's happening. It's like 3 a.m. in New York. I'm in a taxi, a Korean taxi that the guy previously didn't speak any English, but now he does. And on the screen starts playing Lex Steele pounding the ever-living shit out of some poor woman. And Skew looks back at me with murder eyes again and is like, "That's exactly what I thought would happen." And and the driver,
he would think that.
He just like laughs, looks back at us, and is like, "You like that?" I was so uncomfortable, and I did not know. I didn't say anything, I don't think, as the story goes. And he plays this for like the 45 minutes it takes us to get to the airport. And we step off the taxi, and I look at Skew, and he looks at me, and I'm like, "What was that?" And Skew's like, "I don't know. Have a safe flight." And he like walks away.
I miss Skew. We're worse off for not having him in StarCraft anymore.
He was a different breed, man. He was crazy. So I just remember that story. I'd actually completely forgotten it, and then for some reason, talking about Wreckroll taking care of us in Korea, I remembered that story. But that's what happened. And I can honestly say I'm 33 years old. I've never had anything like that happen ever again. I've gotten into Ubers and taxis, and the weirdest thing that happens is they call me Goof. They're like, "Goof? Are you Goof Robinson?" And I'm like, "That's my name. I'm Goof Robinson." He's like, "Okay, I'll drive you to the airport." I'm like, "Thanks a lot."
Goof? Are you lifting plates or are you lifting weights?
Yeah. So I apologize if that offended anybody out there, but I thought that was too good of a story to not tell, and that's that. What's the next one, Matt? We had some other questions. Okay. This one's interesting. Well, I'll ask that. So, most meaningful matches as a player / caster. What comes to mind? Meaningful.
For me. Meaningful?
Yeah.
Let's see. So I think as a player, I guess.
Either one. You can take it
I'll do both.
Well, yeah.
As a player, I mean, definitely I had a lot of meaningful matches and like tournaments that I won in StarCraft 1 that were really, really important to me. Especially because we were so poor. So like the little bits of prize money that I won were like unfathomably important.
Yes.
It was, oh my God.
I kind of miss that, but I also don't, right? Like, you'd win $200 and be like, I can eat.
Yeah.
For 3 weeks.
It's like try paying rent playing StarCraft 1 tournaments. It doesn't work. It's terrible. Anyways, yeah, a lot of ones like that. I guess like overall there was the one match that I think about the most in my life because I'm chasing that same feeling. I mean, it's happened occasionally, but you know, like getting into the actual zone.
Yeah.
Where like literally everything slows down. You know, people describe it, you can read about it and stuff. And you play like way above what you're used to. And it seems so easy and it seems so simple. And like the thing is nowadays, this is one of like I study a lot and read a lot about you know, sports psychology and coaching type stuff and like I'm very interested. Like that's kind of like where I, other than, you know, commentating in general, my future going towards that, where it's like, how do you perform well in StarCraft, right? How do you get those right things to happen? Anyways, in 2004, right, my qualifying match for the World Finals was against a kid named Fight is Blind, who was top 2 Zerg easily in America at the time. And I actually felt at the time like he was stronger than Day 9, but he was wiping the floor with me in game 1. And that was the year where I made the big switch and just decided StarCraft was my life forever, and that was it. And like, so, you know, I had no money, and this was my only goal, and I did not want to fall into that loser bracket because like that tournament was so stacked. And I just kind of like let go of everything and literally hit the zone where everything slowed down, and it seemed so easy. And I just, from a losing position, I crushed him in the first game, and then I crushed him in the second game. And it was like, yeah, that was, for me, that was probably the most important 2 games of my entire life right there as a player.
I love that. You've told that story before too, but it's funny because
well, it is that meaningful to me. I literally think about that a lot because I'm like, what type of things did I do to get in that mindset? And you know, it was such a transformative moment.
But also just that, like you said, because you care that much about that aspect of the game, and the game was able to put you in a place where you could get results off of hitting that zone or thinking about it that way. And then those results translated into like, you put all this work into this thing, it paid off on some level, and then you were going to be chasing that and following that feeling for, you know, 2 decades, 3 decades.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was 15 years ago that I played that match, but it's still very fresh in my mind, especially the game where I turned it on. Like I can remember most of the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an important match for me. What's your important match of?
I think I've told this story before, but I love telling it because it gives it's just, for me, the stars aligning are pretty incredible. So when I did win WCG USA 2007, that's what started everything. And I like I said, I've said this a few times, but there's a match that happened. So 32 players, I think it was, or whatever, but it was like 2 group stages into a final bracket, something like that. I can't remember, maybe 1 group stage. But score-wise, if I was to lose to LZ Gamer in this best of 3, I would not advance, and then I would never have won the tournament. I would never have done a lot of things, which we'll talk about in a second. But like, he played PVZ back then. I was the Zerg, he was the Protoss, but he was a Zerg player that Matchup picked. some of those maps were really bullshit, so you had to play really weird. That's part of the reason why I did well there, is because I was like one of 2 Zergs, I think, in the entire tournament, because the maps are pretty bad. So nobody practiced for Zerg, and nobody was ready for how weird I could play as well. But there's one game where he did some kind of Reaver drop and thing, and same kind of thing with Dan. Like he was beating me pretty good, and it was a really scrappy, close game. But he was winning. I was pretty sure I was going to lose. I was kind of already accepting that this is where my tournament stops. But for me, that wasn't that big of a deal because I didn't go to this tournament expecting to win or do well. It was just kind of a treat and honor to be there. And it was it was like my it was my 3rd actual offline event in competition. I'd been to like my buddy's house and we'd land and stuff like that, but that was crazy. And back then, I didn't listen to game sounds. I had a Walkman, which I'm going to assume 90% of the chat doesn't know what the hell that is. That is a old piece of machinery used to play a compact disc of music. And I would always listen to Tool. That was kind of my go-to StarCraft music. And the disc ended, and back then again, if you listen to the whole disc and it ended, it did not loop back and start playing something else. It just stopped. So I'm in this game. The score is 1-1, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose. So I'm just kind of microing my final Hydras or whatever. And the music ends, and there's 3 people behind me watching. I think there were other tournament players. Just as it ends, they go, "Well, Jeff's going to lose. He's dead." And I was like, yeah, that sucks that I heard that right there. But then I was able to kind of dig deep, and the game actually was decided by the fact that he could not afford more Scarabs for his Reaver. Like, it was so close and so down to it that like 5 Hydras won the game because he had no more ammunition to win the game. I win that game. I move on. Some other great games happen, but I win the USA Finals. That then gets me to the Pan American Championship, to the US Open, which I also win. Pan American Championship, I took 2nd, I think, to Phoenix. I'm getting prize pool money from this as a guy that had no money to his name. I won like pretty darn good prize support as well for the USA Championship. I was then invited onto a reality show. From the reality show, I was recruited onto EG. From EG, the rest is history. But like, I think if I lose that match, I don't know where I would have been. I maybe would be a high school teacher in Washington, which is not to say. What's that?
How crazy is that?
Yeah, it's insane. And that's not to say that being a high school teacher in Washington is bad, but it's not my dream job, and what I'm doing right now is my dream job.
Well, I'd probably be sitting here with LZ Gamer instead of you, is what it would be.
Think about that. And it wouldn't be the Pylon Show; it'd be the Garbage Can Show. And also, and I just every chance to mention this too, but like it was weird because back then, other sacrifice had to get made too. To go to this tournament, the USA Finals, you had to send yourself. So from Washington to Florida, with like 1 or 2 weeks notice, it's $600-700, which for a lot of people they could do. For me, I've never had that much money at that point in my life. So I asked my dad if he could help send me to this thing that's really important. And understandably, my dad was like, "No, you need to focus on college. That's a lot of money. You can play online. Like what's going on here?" So I was heartbroken. And then my mom, who was a single mom trying to take care of 3 kids and living paycheck to paycheck, said, "No, you're going to that tournament. I know how important it is to you." So she skipped rent that month and put her house and our livelihood in jeopardy, which you can say is too much, and that's fine. But it ended up being, like, again, the thing that opened all the doors. So that tournament and everything that clicked into place and everything that happened is insane that it jump-started my whole life. And all I had to do was sacrifice a goat and a virgin and worship Satan for the rest of my life too. And it's just like everything has been so amazing since then. Yeah. So that I think is my most meaningful as a player. Most meaningful match as a commentator. What do you got, Dan?
That's such a hard one because I've commentated like so many matches. It's hard to even have them come to mind. It's like meaningful match as a commentator.
Yeah.
Gosh, like, I mean, there's been very meaningful events, but like to name just a single match that was super meaningful, like I've commentated friends winning and losing. People that there's been definitely a lot of legendary moments. I commentated the last championships for a lot of top players, right? Like the last time we saw MVP win a tournament or something like that. There's so many like that. So it's really hard to have just one that's super meaningful. But yeah, you know, in general, just like championship matches, obviously the Cyril Stats one was like very, like what a moment. Both those really, both the Cyril Stats ones were big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to really just narrow it down though to like a most meaningful match. And I guess there's a lot of ways you can go, like meaningful for the game, meaningful for the player, meaningful for me or a close friend or something like that. Or yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, meaningful is a tough word here. I'll take the bait, I guess, because it's still hard to talk about to this day. But for me, an interesting kind of introspective, like lightning bolt of a moment that I had was I was commentating Shoutcraft Kings with Total Biscuit. And this guy fought terminal cancer for like, I think it was 3 or 4 years. And he was really funny because the Shoutcraft Kings broadcast would be like 7 or 8 hours. And it would start for me at like 5 a.m. For him, it was 2 or 3 hours later. But it's just this marathon of a thing. And it's just the two of us commentating it. And I remember at one point we were taking like a break at like hour 5. And I was like, God, I'm tired. My throat hurts. And then John would like sit down, drink his like nutrient drink that kind of was like sustaining him and be like, you ready? Let's do this. I can't wait. I'm so excited. And I was like, holy fuck. I have nothing to complain about. And I can only be inspired by this guy's dedication and work ethic. And it's something that's going to stick with me forever. There's always somebody that has it worse off. There's always somebody that feels worse than you. But through StarCraft and him, I learned that, you need to be kind of aware that we're just lucky to be where we're at and work hard. So that was very meaningful.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do the next question, I guess. Unless you come up with one. You just kind of said you don't have one. Right? Meaningful stuff?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it's none come to mind as like the most meaningful. Sorry for the
no, that's okay.
I mean, I was brainstorming before, but most of what I came up with were exciting matches or like matches that could have been very meaningful but turned out not to be.
Yeah.
I guess I can give one of those. There was like all this hype going around for the Hydra versus Xenio match in ZVZ.
Oh.
For people that don't remember, at the beginning of StarCraft 2, I was a Zerg player, and I actually was one of the highest ranked Zergs in the world on the ladder. And I had some really good builds that I had made. And Hydra was going to use my build, and Xenio was going to use Spunky's build. And somehow this got out that this is what was going to happen. No one knew what the builds were on this particular map. So it was like... and I was commentating that. So that was a moment where I'm like, all right, this is it. And everyone's talking about it. And this is exciting. And then Hydra fucked up my build. And it should have beaten that shit ass build that Xenio had. 100%. He didn't hold position his roaches on top of his fucking ramp like I told him to. And Xenio won. And people acted like Spunky made better builds than me. It's not the case. That could have been a meaningful match. It wasn't.
I like that. All right. So Cobra's got his favorite 60 seconds of an event with us, I guess. Let's see what this is. I know what it is. I don't think they can hear it, Matt, can they?
I don't hear it.
You'll have to play it over again. I think this is when you got me real good. Yeah, there's no sound for sure, Matt.
Well, it's really good to see you still doing so well. Artie. That was some great input from In Control first. Yeah. I don't want to have to follow something like that up, but I'm going to try to say something at least as substantial. This tournament is about Todd as far as I'm concerned at this point, okay? This guy, he is a pro gamer that, like, he was a legend in Warcraft 3. He came to StarCraft 2 and has been kind of mediocre-ish to good. You know, he's had some good results, made Premier League and stuff. But the thing is, he's been commentating a lot recently. And, you know, that's like something, sometimes pros take a step back. They're like, you know, maybe I'm going to try this commentary thing a little bit. You know, I got to make some money, and I still love the game. Maybe I'm not doing as well as I should. You know, and...
Wow. Whoa!
But Todd
Wait a second. I'm pretty sure you as well tried to keep playing competitive
I think what we can really,
more ass.
I think we can really take away...
Dude. to this day, that's one of the best burns I've just ever seen. Like, not even you. It's just so good. Oh, I love that too because it's funny. Because I think I'm very good impromptu, and I think I'm very witty and very quick with my responses. There's a couple of these motherfuckers, and you're one of them, that have actually like nailed me so hard that my brain just wasn't able to process it, and that's actually caught on camera. One of those moments where I'm like, that response is okay for me, but it's not great. I'm just like, whoa. But that's because in my head I'm like, Dan? At 2, Dan? Holy shit! Basically the whole broadcast with Too Good, which everyone references, like Asus ROG. I had some funny jokes, but for the most part, it was me constantly in awe of how damn funny Too Good was, and just trying to keep up. That was good. That event, by the way, just as a quick aside. So this event, to talk about what's crazy and how an event can basically like shift entire careers. Nick had like almost done very little to no hosting before that event. They were just kind of like, Nick, you want to try hosting or whatever? And Nick was like, sure. He actually did such a fucking incredible job that he got some crazy offers after that. And it's an interesting thing because obviously we know Nick's talented. We know he's witty. We know he's good. But he actually did such a good job of hosting that he was asked to possibly do the international, like the following international as a host. And this is a guy that did not play or watch any Dota 2, but for various different reasons, it didn't work out. But that's how good of a job he did. He actually got to that point where they were like, we'd like to hire you for this. And it didn't work out, but that was kind of cool.
He's a very good host. I think he enjoys casting much more than hosting overall, though.
Yeah.
Which,
he can just give his canned responses and barely pay attention that way. When you have to host, you have to pay a lot of attention. Turns out. Just kidding. Anyways, thank you, Cobra. That was a really good segment. Yeah. All right. Let's. This one's interesting as well. Biggest regrets as a player/caster. And again, you can take that any way you want, of course.
Okay, so I gotta give a disclaimer here, right?
Yeah.
In many ways, I don't really have regrets. And a lot of it comes down to like what you said, right? All the little tiny things where LZ Gamer was missing one scarab or you wouldn't be here right now, right? It's like all the crazy things that build up. So I'm afraid of the butterfly effect. I don't want to change anything that's happened, right? I have some wonderful children. I don't want them not to exist because I won one more tournament match.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, there's definitely things that I do regret. I mean, I guess let's start with the player, right? As a player, like, I guess I have regrets. Like, I don't feel like I've accomplished what I've wanted to as a player. I think I was, you know, doing well when I still lived in America and playing those tournaments. I was kind of, you know, I was a top American and top foreigner for a very long time and was doing very well in tournaments, you know, winning and qualifying and stuff. So that was good. But I mean, obviously I have big dreams of doing big things, which have not as of this moment. You may have noticed I haven't won any GSLs, ASLs, KSLs, OSLs, or MSLs. So all those are, you know, a little bit of a knife to the through the ribs. But you know, it's, I guess I'm not truly regretting. Like, I really like my life and what I do. I still practice and play as much as I can. I look at StarCraft as a much more long-term process, I think, than most people do. I think a lot of pros are, oh, I've got to win something this year. We hear that all the time. And I'm like, well, I'm going to keep practicing as hard as I can. And, you know, right now I'm very busy because I have a bunch of young children. But, you know, I guess that's kind of a player regret. Another thing that I kind of regret as a player is I regret not maintaining my form. Like, there's been times where I've been very, very, very good. Like, and the thing is, I go in and out of both StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2 and then lose a bunch of form. And I wish that I would just fucking play a couple games each day of both games instead of this thing where I go feast or famine so much. But I think that while that's a weakness of mine, I think it's also a strength, the way that I handle myself and go really all in on things. But yeah, it's like frustrating. Like, the first caster tournament, by the end of it, I had practiced a lot and I was in really, really good shape. Like, I was very close to GM in Korea and like doing very well. Like I felt like very, very, very good at StarCraft 2 at that time. And there was times during Heart of the Storm and stuff where I was playing a lot and super active and very high on the Korean ladder then too. And I just, I'll fall out of it, right? Where like, I'll just get busy and not play for a couple weeks. And then it's painful to get back in shape. And then you put it off a little bit more. And then it's like, shit, now you have to play hardcore for a month to get back, right? And that's always kind of annoying. So I kind of regret that a little bit as well, where I wish I could keep my form a bit better. But I mean, I think everyone talks about that some, like Roddy's always mentioning. I'm sure that this has happened to you, Jeff, when you travel for an extended period. Like, it all goes away so quickly.
Which, like you said, and I agree, it's like, it's a good and bad thing. It's kind of cool that StarCraft requires that much effort to get yourself to a place where you're pretty proud of how you're playing. But at the same time, because our careers are just a lot of travel, or just, you've got a family, for Pete's sake, so your amount of time you can put into it's just not what it used to be. That is funny and very relatable. For me, I guess, again, regret it, like just like Dan. I'm really happy with where I'm at. I don't look back at my career of StarCraft and go, man, I really fucked up at that time, and if I would have just done that, things would have been better. I'm really happy and proud. Unabashedly so too, by the way. I think that's something that's hard for people to say publicly, that they're proud and happy of what they've done, but I'm going to be one of those guys that does it. I actually think I've done some great things, and I'm really happy with that. The hardest period of time, and definitely some regret is there, but it's interesting, was early EG, when I was kind of perpetually going, just the system they had me playing against Boxer and these like really, really top Koreans that would come over, and they would just beat my face in over and over again. And then I'd be like, okay, in the loser match, who am I facing? It'd be like Sase, one of the best European Protosses. And I'd just be like, well, he's better than me too. And he'd smash me. And then people would be like, why are you even on EG if you can't beat Boxer and Sase? And I'd be like, I beat everybody. I'm trying really hard. And it kept happening because there's a lot of MLGs and there's a lot of that going on. That was a really dark time because I would go home and probably practice ineffectively or too much. And it would get really negative. And I would, with my knowledge now of what it takes and what makes you happy, I would go back and advise young Jeff to do a lot of things just differently. I don't know that it would translate into better results, but I definitely would have spent a lot less time being sad and angry and yelling at the public, and more time competing and enjoying the competition of StarCraft, because that is such an amazing feeling. One of the coolest feelings I ever felt was I lost 1-2 to the Korean American Terran player. I can't remember his name. He's out of StarCraft now. But I beat him one game on stage, and it was in front of a huge MLG audience. Not Select, no. The young guy. I actually really totally blank on his name. Illusion. Maynard nailed it, because Maynard's got a goddamn good memory. Too. I beat Illusion, and at that time I had kind of a darling relationship with the community. Like, they obviously knew I wasn't about to make a run to win the tournament, but just competing and winning at that point was really cool for a lot of people. And they blew up like I won the grand finals of the fucking GSL. Like, people were, and it was like shaking the booth that I was in. And that's a feeling that I'll remember for the rest of my life as well, because I grew up playing sports and football and public, competitive debate and stuff like that. And competition's always just been really important to me. But I think that's only part of what I'm saying. Winning and getting the crowd's approval is an important thing for me. So the few times in that scale I've experienced it has been transformative, and that was one of those times. So my regret is I didn't do things differently to get more of that. MLG was mostly a negative thing for me, as opposed to feeling really good, but that moment was just incredible. What about as a commentator, if you have any regrets there?
Well, I mean, I guess I do have some. There's been times where I didn't say what I wanted to say, or I didn't do a good enough job. The one that really stuck out in my mind as soon as I saw this question and thought about it, there was a time on the couch where I was really excited. And the thing is, I normally for a long time, I wouldn't do any sort of like storytelling prep. I just kind of could do it. Yeah. I could just sit down and, for the most part, improv anything I need to say about anyone, because StarCraft is quite a bit of my life. But Specifically the finals of BlizzCon where Rogue ended up winning. I was going on the couch for Special as he was entering the round of 4 match, and I was very excited about it because I've known Special forever. This was his greatest result. I was super proud of him. He's been a friend for a very, very long time. Maybe not as close to him now as I'm not a player anymore or anything, but like I really wanted to do justice to this guy that I've known forever and what he's gone through to get here and how ludicrous this journey has been for him. And I fucking failed. Like as I was saying it, I felt it. And like when I was done, I was like, oh, that was hot garbage. Like that didn't do what I wanted at all. That I didn't convey the story that I really wanted to there. But I mean, I guess the bright side, since then I was so disappointed, I've read a lot on storytelling and narrative building and kind of have really worked to not have a moment like that again. But that was probably the thing that stands out, I guess.
I like this because I have a similar story in the sense that like that moment that I think most people had skipped over for them, right? That wasn't that big of a deal, but to you is really important. Same thing for me. So NASL season 1 had a lot of problems with it, but there was one broadcast. It was like one of the league games, just a weekly game. Nobody knows this happened, but it was such a bad moment for me that I was very sure that I was never going to make this mistake again because it was so important to me. Greetorp, my co-commentator, and I think mostly we had a good relationship for the most part, but it was just a stressful time, and the NASL was struggling and stuff like that. So we kind of had a negative vibe there. But one broadcast, I just made a snap. I just said something, and it was absolutely the wrong thing to say. It was something like we were talking about a TVP build or whatever, and Greetorp's like, no, I really disagree. I think that actually if he hits this kind of timing, I think it could be okay. I'm pulling this out of my ass, but it was something along these lines. And my response right off the cuff was like, well, I mean, I can't remember the ranks at the time. I said something like, you're struggling at Diamond 1, so what do you know, actually? And then like moved on. And it's just absolutely not okay to say something like that to your co-commentator. Even if you're joking, it's something that commentators struggle with, where like if you're not the highest of ranks or whatever, the community will go after you. And more so in the past, I would say. It's actually really pleasant now. And that for the most part, our casting scene is either players that play all the time and are quite good, or them playing and learning and playing the game is actually something celebrated as opposed to what their actual rank is. But back in the day, it was very a focus. Like if you weren't a top player and you were a commentator, you were some fucking idiot. And I basically outed him publicly that way. And he finished the broadcast, didn't say anything. We go to commercial. He takes his headset off, looks at me. I look at him. I didn't know anything happened because I was just being a dick and I didn't think it. And he says, you cannot talk to me that way ever again in a broadcast like that. I am furious. And he like walked away. And it was just one of those, and that was the right thing to say and do. He was well within his rights. But I remember I apologized profusely. And then from that moment forward, and I'm not going to say I've never fucked up again, because guys, I'm going to fuck up today. Okay. But at the time I was like, okay, I really messed up. I need to think more about how I talk. And basically need to be an ally and treat my co-commentators as sacred, as opposed to off the cuff tear them down, because it does make for a nasty broadcast. Like I said, I'm not going to tell you that I've never made a similar mistake again since that moment in time, but I so clearly made that mistake that I've been working, and I think mostly have not made that mistake moving forward. That was a really bad moment for me, but it was, so regret's the wrong word, I guess, but it's interesting because I regret that it happened, but I'm thankful for the lesson, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think it's made me a better content producer since then. So cool. All right. Next. Oh, I know all the memes. NESL sound guy. So we got a couple more here, and then we'll get into the public, the Patreon Q&A. So Dan, goals/wishes for future of StarCraft 2. And just to preface this, the next question's kind of similar. It's like, where are you going to be in 5 years? So try not to answer both at the same time, I guess.
Sure. Well, I guess my wishes for StarCraft in the future. For StarCraft 2, I really don't want the Korean scene to shrink. from where it's at, because it feels like we are very close to a tipping point in Korea with StarCraft 2. We don't have a lot of new talent coming in. We have a lot of people in the next 2 years that'll be going to the military that are top players. Very likely. I mean, there are ways to put it off, but I think a lot of people kind of said when they're thinking about going. So, and I think that we have enough tournaments right now that everyone can stay active and really good and practice hard and have that passion. But I'm nervous that if it does end up shrinking, that could be very detrimental, not just to Korean StarCraft 2, but StarCraft 2 in general. Because yes, Serral's the world champion, but the best players are the Koreans. And if they don't have enough tournaments, that scares the shit out of me. So that's my wish for the future of StarCraft 2, I would say.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say anything different. I guess what I would add to that is, without knowing, I would tell you that this is, I believe the last year we're guaranteed WCS. I think they did not guarantee WCS next year. It was something like they said for the next 2 years or 3 years, whenever they said it, you will have WCS. In talks with Blizzard and just the general vibe, I think a lot is uncertain these days, and I don't know that next year will be guaranteed WCS. If we are, it is through the success, or however it's perceived, and it is perceived as a success, which is great. WCS Winter, that was a more inexpensive version of a WCS stop, and it did pretty well, especially like the Challenger broadcast. They get 30 to 40,000 viewers. Those are not bad numbers, and they're pretty happy with that. So if they can build off of that and continue to grow it, that's really cool. But then it will also be through the War Chest, which continues to max out. So that's also a promising and good sign. With Mike Morhaime at the helm of Blizzard, I would tell you we're going to have WCS, we're going to have StarCraft, and we're good to go. With Overwatch League continuing to kind of flounder and Mike Morhaime not with Blizzard anymore, and a lot of non-essential staff being cut, and just kind of the general vibe and direction they're going there, that's not guaranteed. It just really isn't. I'm not telling you that it's not going to happen. I just cannot tell you that it is going to happen. So that's interesting. And that's where things like Cheesadelphia and, like I said, kind of the new form of WCS become really important, because I know StarCraft will never go away. This is not going to be like some of the other games where you queue up for 45 minutes and can't find a game. There are going to be people playing StarCraft forever. In fact, it just hit, it was like a week ago, one of my favorite lines I ever read was on the front page of Reddit. And it was someone who was like, I can't remember what game it was. They were like, I tried to ask my friend who is a engineer degree, I think it was, if they would like to play Apex Legends with me. And they said, I play StarCraft, so I already play a video game. And the simple truth here is they're like, I only need StarCraft. That's the only video game I want to play. And it, like I said, I kind of butchered that line, but it's, if you Google or look it up, it's really beautiful and funny, and just how like completely StarCraft that is. The guy's like, no, I already play a game. StarCraft. That's all I need. So StarCraft will always be around. My hope is in the next 5 years it doesn't lose too much of its luster, because like Dan said, Korea's got its issues. WCS is not guaranteed just because of the stability of Blizzard and Activision, that kind of thing. But it's just so important. It's so amazing. So I hope it's always around that way.
And for StarCraft 1, I want to add in as well, because it's in such a different spot than StarCraft 2, where it's the complete opposite. It's thriving in South Korea, and it's maybe dwindling even in the foreign scene. Not exactly sure. The viewership is still quite good, but for players, I don't know if it's actually growing at the moment. Anyways, I mean, I guess I don't have full info on that, but I think for StarCraft 1, it'd be great if this continues to thrive in South Korea like it is. It really seems like it's going to. It's in a growth phase. There's so much stuff on all the time. The players are getting so popular. We are going to lose some of the top names in the military, but it seems like that's not going to screw things up, because we have other top names that are coming up and like replacing and getting out of military and stuff. So
very cool.
But as I always have to say, about the foreign scene, I wish that there would be a LAN tournament. I wish, and I've ranted on this so many times, I don't want to get fully into it again, but like the way that the industry has changed, where like every tournament organizer now, it seems like every business model, there's like two business models: publishers paying for everything and Counter-Strike. right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong on this? Those are the two business models right now. It's like they're used to, once upon a time, a tournament organizer type company would, I'm talking about the big guys like DreamHack and ESL and stuff. And I'm sure that they could, point out small ways in which I'm wrong, but like the way that it's gone towards publishers just being like, I have the new game and esports is hot and hip and cool, so let's do it. And here's the money to do it. That's such an easy way to get a payday, as opposed to actually like building something great. And the thing is, the fact that Brood War came out and there were no tournaments for it, only Zotac Cup did anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Like the original game, the original one, that's fucking awesome. Okay, well,
Dan and I have a particular chip on our shoulder because the Holiday Bash and those tournaments did very well. They were really cool.
Very well for cost versus viewership.
Yeah.
I don't know if anything's better other than a personal stream of one of the biggest streamers in the world. That's like the, obviously that's going to be cheaper to put on.
Yeah.
But like for viewership versus cost, it's so good.
It was so good. But the reason not more of that's coming is because in the contemporary gaming climate, those events were great, and yes, they were inexpensive, but they don't sell units of StarCraft Remastered, and even if they do, it will never be a meaningful amount. Like, they don't host that event and then sell 50,000 units. It doesn't work that way. So
there's not skins to buy or anything.
There's not skins to buy. It's just purely like we can make, and we can make all the arguments for like, this is good for your brand, and this like associates you with big name content producers, and it sells Twitch hours, and it's like it is an important game that your company was based on. Like Mike Morheim's name is on the coding for StarCraft Brood War. But all of those things are fine and good, and I think a lot of people in a company, it'll be like, I understand. Then it gets to like the executive level where they have to sign off on $150,000 thing or whatever, and they go, what? No, we're coming out with Anthem. We need to get me an Anthem event or whatever. And it's like, it's tough to sell that shit game. So it's probably just not going to happen unless somebody out there just wants to put on a good event. And that's got to be enough. And that's the tough slot that StarCraft falls into. So I'll just kind of merge this into where are we in 5 years, because I think we talked a lot about this already. I think in 5 years, you're going to see StarCraft transition into that grassroots again. The people that are playing are the diehard. You'll have events, but will it be an event put on by Blizzard that is suit and tie and in front of a big audience? Maybe once or twice a year. I bet StarCraft 2 is always at BlizzCon. I'd be very surprised by traveling to the future and learning that it's no longer there. I think you'll always see it. But will we have 3 or 4 WCS stops the way we know them now? I cannot imagine that. That would be really crazy. I hope we have it next year, and I hope we find our path and things go really well, and we can maybe have it for another couple years. But it's going to be the community. It's going to be grassroots, and it's going to be a couple of events, and it's going to be... yeah, Mark says no ties. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for letting us win that battle. And Cords behind you. Cords behind you, okay? Cords in front is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. That's what I think. I would love to be wrong. I would love for... Because StarCraft is... This is the funny thing. I know we're a little bit doom and gloom, but like, viewership's growing. Events are actually having higher numbers. They're selling the shit out of skins. The war chest is maxing out. There's like a ton of reasons why to be really excited and for things to be really great. I wish we could take away the firings and we could take away the poor performance of other games at Blizzard that gives us this feel of like we're next, right? I think if you do take away those events, we'd be nothing but gushing right now. That's what I would say.
Okay. I actually have a slightly different opinion on what's going to happen. Okay, so 5 years from now, I actually think that we will still have WCS. I don't think that StarCraft 2 esports is going to go away. I mean, I could see it getting smaller. It already, it changed a little bit this year. We saw Korea's the same. We lost an event. We got WCS winner. We've been over that 100 times, and it seems like a great fix.
Yeah.
I think we are still going to have WCS in 5 years. I think also in the next 5 years, we're going to have a very good idea if we are ever going to see StarCraft 3. because I think that if that's going to come, it should be coming in the next 5 years, like at least the announcement of it, right? Because we have this great, huge community within StarCraft. And if you're going to keep WCS going forever, I feel like, it only makes sense to make a StarCraft 3 and monetize at that point. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what everything will look like at that point. I mean, I'm still planning to be around within StarCraft, God willing. So that, I think we'll still be around, and the Pylon Show will be on episode, 5 times 46. It's like a lot of episodes by then. And hopefully our Patreon will be up to $3,000.
230, is that? It's 5 times 46, 230.
Something like that.
Someone in the chat that's really smart. Real quick, I just want to know what the number is. 5 times 46. It is 230. God damn it.
230, yep.
Yeah. Oof, you're good.
Sometimes, listen, I impress the fuck out of myself, okay? We spent a lot of time talking about Jeff messing up. Can we just say that I just nailed that? All right?
No,
it's not 332. Get out of here, Fortron.
By then, I hope to be the greatest StarCraft player in his 40s in the world. I think that's a real goal, realistic one.
And, you can do anything you set your mind to.
Yeah. So I don't actually feel too gloomy about the long-term what's going on with that. With StarCraft 1, I think it'll just be in a stable, good place in South Korea. I think that everything will be a little bit more formalized, not to the KESPA amount, but it'll be like right now it's very streamer, every streamer puts on a Star League and it ends up getting so many views that they do a great production for it by the end. And that's great, but I think it'll be a little bit more streamlined. Where it's not just streamers putting on tournaments all the time, but like there'll be probably Brittany will like take over and just there'll be like a consistent schedule going on. So I think the future of StarCraft 1 in South Korea is very bright at that point, and I think we still won't have had a LAN tournament, unfortunately.
Yes. Well, we will always be here, is the thing. Big, small, whatever. We're going to be around StarCraft. Like Dan said many years ago, and I think it describes it pretty well, you'd have to kick him away screaming or over his dead body. There's just not really a world where we don't do it. So you guys supporting the Pylon Show and watching and listening, we'll talk about StarCraft until nobody wants to listen to us anymore. So I think that's forever. We'll be around a long time. And it's probably actually when people stop wanting to listen to us that Dan and I continue to talk about StarCraft, because we actually already did that. Back in Brood War, there's like literally 3 dozen people that you could talk to StarCraft about. We were part of those 3 dozen.
Well, we'll just be on our own Discord channel instead of doing it live here. That's fine.
Only in 5 years, it's like it's a Google microchip that you put into your brain. And you can just talk all the time.
Yeah, there we go.
Really sick. We're happy. We're excited. Like I said, I don't mean to be doom and gloom. I think there's a lot of stuff to be excited about, and things are doing really well. And no matter what it is, we'll cover it, and we'll talk about it, and we'll keep playing it. And you know what? If enough people stop playing StarCraft, Dan and I can once again become pro gamers, and we'll just win all the tournaments again. Take them.
No,
and then Dan and I will come back and beat you, though.
That's too easy, Jeff. We just got to keep practicing, okay? And eventually get our level up there.
That's right. All right. Well, I think that's our Q&A. That's the questions we had for each other. But you know what? It's not just Dan and I. We have some lovely people on Patreon that have been asking questions by going to our website, hitting the Ask the Question button, and then typing out some questions. We have not had anyone write a big book yet, by the way, which
I'm surprised.
Has been interesting. I think it's because we tease the people that do that, but I'm telling you, I won't tease you. Well, I guess I can't promise that, but I should be able to promise that. Anyways, we got some questions. We're gonna answer those Q&A questions as per usual, give some shout outs, and then we're gonna call this done and dusted, as James Caleris would say. It used to say probably too much. Just waiting for Matt to pull up these questions. We got a lot of them. Some of these can be skipped over there because they're actually to Idra, and Idra does not exist as far as we're concerned. Last week, my point, this is from Empty Zero Eyes. Last week, my point was only the elimination matches be best of 5, while match 1, match 2, and winner match remain best of 3. This would still reward good cheese, while lowering the probability of losing top players in round of 16. I know it's still more time, but benefits seem very high for this. Thanks for your thoughts. It's not a question, but thank you for clarifying. So last week we were talking about, he was asking about more best ofs for like earlier in the rounds to show off more of the players, that kind of thing. So he's just trying to clarify his point. So thank you. Ambrose Pereira says, during a game when attacking a mining base, win it better to focus on kill workers versus trying to kill the base. Under what circumstances and what matchups would each option be better? And what about attacking with a full army versus a harassment force?
Ooh, well, that's a pretty complex question.
Yeah.
Like, that is so complex that I would have to talk for several hours to set up different scenarios because it changes all the time. I'm sorry that we can't really give a good answer for you on this. It's like a lot of times people ask something that's very complex and I can still give a partial answer for them. This one is so complex that sorry,
yeah.
I can't even begin to answer it because there's so much involved, because everything you say there are different times where those things are good.
Right.
And it's something that you can learn over time. And if you give me a certain scenario, a very specific scenario, I could tell you what's good and what's not.
Yep, that is, I have very little add only to Limelight. Dan hit the nail on the head there. Sometimes you guys ask questions where I understand, and it would be cool if there was an answer to that, but this game is so beautiful, so amazingly complex, that to break down the matchup, the army composition, and the situation where you would target workers versus their army versus killing the base is actually impossible to answer. And I'm so thankful for that. Because if this game was any simpler and you could just be like, here's this really long list of circumstance, can you give an answer? And I'm like, black takes white. White, ugh, don't like it. So thank you for trying, but you'll have to be more specific. So Polly asks, were you happy with the bracket method of WCS Winter, and do you know what the pros think about it? How was the feedback you received? Before you answer, Dan, I don't know what the pros think. We asked a few, and they generally liked that there was more opportunities to play games, as opposed to just playing like a single match and then losing. But I did not talk to them there and poll their questions. That's a Fear Dragon moment. So if you really care about the answer to this, tweet Fear Dragon 64. That's a capital F, capital D, and then 64. And he probably did ask them. But Dan, what did you think about it for you as a guy that watched?
Yeah, no, I liked that bracketed stepping up method. It's just, I don't know, it's fresh. I don't want every tournament to be GSL groups. Like, GSL groups are cool. It's a good way to get a lot of games and get the better players out of a group, but I want to have different formats, and I think that that's a really cool one that can be had where you have, players truly having to prove themselves coming from the bottom because you already had this big group stage and you proved yourself once there, and now it's like, do you really think you're not the 5th best player here? You think you're the 4th? Well, you better win this match, right? Like, yeah, it was cool.
So Europe was Serral, the number 3 seed, taking on Raynor, the number 1 seed, and NA was Neve, the number 2 seed, taking on Scarlet, the number 1 seed. And then in front of that, we had a couple people, I think one on each side, win their match and then win the next one. But otherwise, it was mostly the higher seed winning each of the matches, which of course is how you're, mostly going to find a StarCraft tournament anyways, no matter how you slice it. They're the higher seed for a reason. I didn't think this format made it terrible. I didn't think it necessarily made it more exciting and unique for me. So I'm a little bit indifferent. I do like that we're experimenting with formats. I will say that. I don't know that this is the final form and this is how I want every single WCS to finish, but I like that they tried different things and they're breaking the mold a little bit on this tournament in particular, because this was already going to be a different tournament, right? It had a bunch of broadcast days and it was just different. So I really enjoyed that part of it. I know that's not super helpful, but for me personally, I like that they tried. I don't know that this is what I want. That's, I guess, what I'm saying. All right. Lamers John. If you won a pizza pie tournament, what pizza would you order? Dan, you've been thinking about this a lot.
Every day. Well, I live in Korea, so it'd be really hard for them to order me this pizza. If I could get a pizza delivered, it would absolutely be a Domino's pizza, but I know they wouldn't do that for me because Domino's pizza is kind of high end in Korea.
No way.
Some fancy stuff. Oh, dude, if I want to order a couple large pizzas to my house in South Korea, it's going to cost me $70.
Domino's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Domino's is high end stuff here, man. But I can walk down the street to pizza school. 2 large pizzas, $10, $12, right in that right in that area.
I like this.
You had pizza school actually when you were here. I fed you that because that's the pizza I buy because that's like the normal pizza.
We had to order like 8 of them because they're kind of small. But that was delicious.
Yeah, I guess they are a little bit small, but I mean for $5-6 a pizza.
Oh yeah, no, it's good.
So that's probably the one they would give me. I'd tell them, listen, PayPal me $6 and I'll just go get the cheese pizza myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I could get any, it would be a Domino's.
That's funny.
I crave Domino's pizza from time to time, but it's,
As you say this, I'm going to have to probably order that tonight as well. That kind of reminds me of the movie Demolition Man, where in the distant future, like Taco Bell becomes the restaurant. Like they have movie premieres and everyone goes to Taco Bell.
Yeah, it's like all the restaurants are Taco Bell or something. It won the food wars.
Yeah, there's actually a food war. That's right.
Yeah. As a child, loving that movie Demolition Man, great movie. I could not have agreed more when they decided that Taco Bell went on. I'm like, yes, exactly.
Dude, that is actually a great movie. If anyone in the chat hasn't seen it, you're like, Demolition Man, go watch Demolition Man.
Yeah.
But also pay your taxes. Wesley Snipes, that was the part that he did not do, and that ended up being a bit of a problem for him. For me, it's kind of a silly answer too. There's some amazing. I live in Emeryville, California, in between Oakland and San Francisco. Lots of great food here. Ridiculous cost as well. There's a pizza place called Rotten City here. So if anyone is here or travels here, that's like really good New York style pizza. Very expensive. But to me, pizza is a junk food, fast food thing. I don't like really look for mega expensive, super nice. Pizza Hut, pepperoni, stuffed crust pizza. That's all I want. Give it to me. It's probably 7,000 calories and sick cancer cheese, but that's what I want. Even just saying that right now makes me want pizza. I'm going to have to order that tonight probably. Great question. Much love to Pizza Pie Weekly. I'm glad we were able to talk a little bit about it.
Of course, we have
every
to.
episode.
It's part of the show.
That should be on that graphic. Like there's me, 37, Dan 41, Cobra 45, Pizza Pie Weekly 50 somehow. I don't think we've even had that many episodes. All right. Hyper Turtle asks, and by the way, Hyper Turtle, you ask questions every week, and I really appreciate that because I know that sometimes I've teased you and you plow on forward, and I really appreciate your patronage. What benefits have you observed now that StarCraft community figures can discuss sensitive topics in a talk show format as opposed to sharing their thoughts on their streams or on Twitter or Reddit?
I feel like anything I say here is going to be me stroking our own egos.
Do it, baby.
But, I think it's good to have a place, like the thing is, if you have it on various streams, it's like, yeah, well, this guy said it on his stream that had 34 viewers at the time. And it's like, well, that's not as useful as having a very regular podcast / YouTube video / live stream.
Yeah.
Where we'll bring on almost anybody in the community. There are very few people that we aren't interested in speaking with if they have something to say, because we want all the voices to be heard. So it's just, I think that that's a very useful thing to have, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, kind of. Yeah,
no, I agree with Dan, but unlike him, I'm not afraid to stroke our egos and everything else about us. I'll just stroke everything we got. So like I said at the beginning, the feedback to the show has been absolutely incredible. What I really like about it is that Dan is very similar to me in that we do not shy away from topics. So even talking about that thread earlier, there's people who are just like, oh, don't do this. Why are you doing this now? And I get that. That's not the content that they want. That's not what they like. But the opportunity for us to give our full explanation and our feelings and talk about these things, and to look in the chat and see a lot of our peers, see a lot of people that I see in other stream chats, like to know that we're reaching out and talking with, Mark's in the chat, one of the guys that shaped the vision of WCS the way we know it and stuff like that. Just to have a place to be speaking to our community and sharing our thoughts, good or bad, right or wrong, and allow people to know what we think and feel is so good and important. Because even selfishly speaking for me, sometimes people tune in my chat and I'm like, fornicate with your mother, and they're like, wow, I hate this guy. I hate him forever. But if you watch this show, you have another chance to see me be like, deeper and a little bit more interesting than just sometimes yelling at some random guy in the chat or whatever, which is important for me because I like to think I can offer all those things as opposed to just being a guy that makes bad jokes every once in a while. So thank you. Great question. And having the platform for Dan and I is really, really cool. But also, I love that we give and like Dan said, I like that we give the platform to other people too. And we've allowed or helped other people get out there and be seen and heard. There's some really cool people in our community. What?
That we've allowed. I
know. And that word will be what makes someone hate me forever. But like, that's not what I meant. I'm sorry. I will play 100 ladder games to make up for it. All right. Apophis, Dave King. If the bright and glorious day should ever come and StarCraft 3 is announced, what would you most like to see in the game? New units, mechanics, etc. Dan.
Okay, this is actually something that I really think I'm actually right on. Like I think that StarCraft 2 overall, like a lot of the quality of life changes are good overall for the player base, I think, right? Like compared to StarCraft 1, which is actually the one that I generally play more currently. I really enjoyed those mechanics more than the StarCraft 2 personally, but I think it's hard to get people to agree to that. So let's say that it has mechanics similar to StarCraft 2. The thing I think should be taken out is some of these ridiculous abusive hotkey tricks where you do things like you hold a button down and it makes 20 zots instantaneously. Yeah, all the rapid fire stuff where you can like spin the wheel on your mouse and you throw up 400 infested Terrans, stuff like that. Those I think are not, those don't show anything about skill. Those don't, it's just, I don't like those aspects of it. And I've used some of these before where like when Phoenixes were a big thing back when we used to have the rapid fire, you just hold down the hotkey and they'd be perfectly stacked the entire time because it would just give the move command like infinitely fast, right? Stuff like that I think is really stupid. Okay. Like keep the MBS, the multiple building selection, keep the big hotkey control groups and stuff. But some of these tricks that people have come up with, what really comes to mind is warp-ins and then some of the Zerg tricks that you have, right?
Yeah.
Where you have the repeat rate so high that like if you're like, well, I really do want to be a pro, then if you touch Z on your keyboard, it fucking maxes out in a millisecond, right? I think that stuff should be taken out. Like make it so that stuff isn't doable and there's just a little bit more mechanical stuff going on rather than having the perfect hotkey setup where you're like, look at this, I took the time to solve this hotkey setup and now I can throw out 400 infested Terrans at once.
Yep.
No, I don't dig that. That's not something I'm interested in.
StarCraft 3, I would have free to play. And I'd have it so disgustingly good and high quality that you're left wondering how it's free to play. Then I would have it have a strong emphasis on in-game content and skins that you can do from the very beginning. So basically everything that every game's doing right now. This is the obvious answer. I would add a fourth race, and it would have to be the panda people. No, probably not the panda people, but like I'd have a fourth race.
Would you really?
Yeah.
We can't be friends anymore. The Pylon Show's over, guys. It was 1 year. Mark it down.
I think the gold standard for where an RTS can go that would make people really interested and happy you'd have to have some elements of like, and games have tried to do this, but like have not necessarily factions inside the race, but like commanders or something where they have kind of a hero-ish unit that similar to Warcraft 3, but not Warcraft 3. If it's StarCraft 3, you'd have to blend the two. What's that?
It's so hard to balance a 4-race game. Can you imagine our balance winders in a 4-race game? The ones that we have within this community?
You know what people said back in the day, Dan?
What?
So hard to balance a 3-race game. And you know what?
Damn.
They didn't do, Dan? They didn't give into the cowardly belief that only 2 races...
It's easier, though, to balance a 3-race game than a 2-race game.
Did you see me earlier crush 46 times 5? Because what you just did right now is you said 6 times 2 is 7. And then you like looked at me blankly. And I'm asking myself, as a farmer of humanity, do I euthanize you?
2-race games are the hardest to balance because one race just turns out to be better. Look at Warcraft 2, for instance, right? Humans aren't playable because Bloodlust is stronger than the shit the Knight has, okay? This is a normal thing. 2-race RTS games are the hardest to balance.
Is there people in the chat that have also smoked this amount of peyote? Agreed, chess is so imba? No. Artosis is right. You're not even a sub to my channel. I can't trust you. I don't know, man. This is...
It's true. It's actually true.
It's just that when you say bloodlust, like, it's so obvious that you tone that down or you take it out, and then it is balanced, like it was forever.
No. Warcraft 2 is just not balanced. If there was a Warcraft 2 professional scene, it would only be orc players. Look, this is just the thing. The 3 races...
Have you played Command & Conquer?
You have harder matchups, right? And there's like a circle of that. Like, imagine StarCraft 1 with just Protoss and Terran. Who the fuck would take the time to play Terran? But Protoss vs. Zerg is hard. Terran vs. Zerg is easier than that. So that's, well, not really, but... yeah, I mean, the 3 races actually helps towards balance.
Have you played the perfectly balanced game that is Grey Goo?
Grey Goo?
How many races are in that goddamn rat game you have, by the way?
There's 1. It's the Grey Goo.
Jesus Christ! Right? There's 1 race in that game?
Well, technically there's 3, but like as far as I know, only Grey Goo gets played.
Yeah. Wait. In Rat and Tail, it's all just rats, and there's 3 factions of rats?
You're talking about Tooth and Tail. Okay, Tooth and Tail, you have access to everything, but you choose before the game what you want to use. You get 6 different unit types. Tooth and Tail is fantastic. Don't call it Grey Goo. Ew, we've been over Grey Goo. That shit is... Oh, don't do that. Tooth and Tail is quality.
Tooth and Tail, you pick 6 units of the same... Like, everyone just picks 6? Was it built on a TI-83 calculator? Is that game made...
Tooth and Tail?
Yes.
It's like Super Nintendo graphics. Do you not love Super Nintendo graphics? How old are you?
35 years ago.
Are you 20?
Oh my god.
Because you look like you're 20 when you say that.
I do. I feel like I'm 20 when I talk to you about...
You played Super Nintendo growing up. It's beautiful. Those are the graphics that all games should have.
You know what this argument reminds me of? When people are like, back in the medieval days, they married 12-year-old people. Like, why don't we still do that? And I'm like... Because we learned it's bad. And you're like, well...
People went outside more and walked more in the medieval days.
They had to. They were going to die at 24. So, anyways. I'll give it to Dan. We'll say Dan won, because I'm feeling really good. This has been a great episode. Gunner! Probably won't be able to watch live. Thank you for letting us know. Sadly. But I just want to congratulate all of you on 1 year. Looking forward to all the pylons I can handle in the future. Gunner, you're always such a lovely guy. Thank you. His name is Ysorigin. So I see the word origin, but how would you say the beginning of that? Is that just Sorigin?
It's Ysorigin. Ysorigin.
I'm almost certain that's not the case. Have you ever had someone you considered to be your rival either as a player or as a caster? The answer is yes, but Dan, who are your rivals growing up?
Yeah, I mean, the Day 9 one is pretty well known. I think when I was playing StarCraft 1 in general, the Zerg race was kind of my rival in a lot of ways. I just always got eliminated by Zerg players at events. I guess it was kind of funny, right? Because early on in StarCraft 1, Day 9 would have been the one considered my rival. There was more of a triangle of frauds in there too, where like we would all beat each other in kind of a circle. But when StarCraft 2 came out, he was almost like a caster rival then as well, right? Like Day 9 and Tastosis. So yeah, I guess that would be probably my best answer. I think G5 was kind of a rival for me in some ways too. We used to always have very epic matches back in the day.
It was weird when G5 became more of a normal person. He was my favorite when he was like the weird eccentric lurch of a man. He used to barefoot walk around town smoking a cigarette in between games. Like we would go to a tournament and he'd just like literally walk around the town barefoot smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And then I later learned that's just what Californians do. Californians are weird. Rivals for me? Commentating rivals? No, I don't think so. Like, this is just my opportunity to once again, like, people are like, you always put commentators down and you tease them. Here's the thing. I tease everyone in my life. Everyone. Barristan gets teased. I tease myself. In fact, when I'm by myself, I just tease myself all the time. So I don't really have a rivalry. I guess my rivalry in commentating land is just with trying not to be too over the line or tease someone too much.
Yourself.
Yeah. There's people who don't like teasing, and I have to identify that pretty quick because I don't want to actually, make them feel bad or upset them or make them uncomfortable. So I've had to learn that over the time. And that's what's been nice, though, is because my friends will let me know. And they almost all of them have at different times, right? Like Dan one time was really upset after a game. We've told this story before, but I had won and then gave him a hard time, and that was not okay. And he told me, he's like, you don't do that. And guess what? I never did it again.
That's true.
So there's stuff like that. Player rivalries. This is just another opportunity for me to say that we had this really fun group growing up. Artosis, Machine, Idra, Rhett, Skew, G5, LZ Gamer, and then there's other people that popped in there. Nyokin would mostly just watch. Tyler would just listen. They played a few games, and then there's other people that rotated there too. But we would just be on Ventrilo together and play games, and we would do that every day for hours and hours, and it was really fun. But we all tried to murder each other, and
we were trying our best.
We were trying our best, and we were beating each other. There's some people that beat others more, and so on and so forth. But it was just the best. Like, I think because we have that as our background, where that's what we knew StarCraft and Brood War from. That's why it's like so in my blood. It's so social. It's so competitive, and it's very team oriented as well. Like we all made our team media at various different times and stuff like that, and we would compete in clan wars and nation wars, and we loved it. We would beat each other up, but we would also encourage, like, be super proud when that person would go and beat somebody else.
Yeah, those were actually some of the best moments when you all killed Russia, Jeff.
Yeah,
I was like, Russia and Terrans are the best. Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my most proud moments. And they all kept picking blue. What was that map called?
Blue Storm.
Blue Storm.
Because it's a good map for TVZ.
It's a good map.
Not against Jeffrey John Robinson.
A lot of ramps in that map. A lot of lurkers on top of those ramps.
A lot of them. Good times.
It was good. It was very fun. Next question. Imagine if there wasn't a language barrier. This is from Foot4264. Who would be your top 2 pro gamer guests to have on the show? Good question. Thank you. So if there wasn't a language barrier, who would it be? I'll go first real quick. I think Cyril. I mean, in this fictitious world where we just get to have whoever we want, Cyril's actually super funny. He's obviously done something that nobody else has done. It'd be incredible to have him on. And then the other question, if you ready for this? If I have my pick and there's no language problem, and I'm being Barbara fucking Walters right now, and I'm telling you it would be the best show ever, I'd have motherfucking Life on the show, or it would be Savior, and I'd be like, this is an exclusive Pylon show only episode where we dig in deep on this thing that happened. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's really fucking monumental and it's horrifying, but what happened? Boom. That's the answer.
I can't follow that up, Jeff. You win that one.
But let's not get too excited because it literally can never happen.
Yeah, it's sorry guys, it's not even possible.
That's actually one of the only things where, like, literally people would reach out to us from the mothership and they'd be like, you can't do that. Be like, but you don't own us. And they'd be like, you're not doing that. We're like, okay. Alisander asks, in episode 1, we were promised stories about the GomTV days. That's before my time, so any story is welcome.
GomTV days stories. Well, I mean, there's so many from that era, right? The very beginning of StarCraft, of StarCraft 2. There was, I mean, just some real quick, funny, and interesting ones. For instance, Jeff came over for season 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Came one map from qualifying for GSL. One map. Jeff was extremely good PvZ back then, by the way. You fucking, the way you used to, you called it sharking around the map. That was great. Learned a lot. Jeff is a big part of why I switched to Protoss, actually. Liked his play. That's another, let's see, what's another thing?
I've got a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like I said, I don't mind stroking the egos of my friends either. But one of the things that has always stuck with me as well, and I never thought this got enough justice. I've told the story a few times, but Dan and Nick's work ethic to make Korea happen and work was inspiring and incredible. And GomTV is a big part of that. So you guys made the right connections. You talked to the right people. Got yourselves over there. But again, in case there's anyone in the chat that didn't know this, and maybe this is before Gom, but whatever, I'm going to talk about it anyways. Dan used to sleep in like a closet with 2 other guys in hot Seoul, Korea, where it stunk of feet and it was not cool. But he did that and ate bare minimum ramen so that he could commentate and grind and find his way into these companies and make Korea happen because he loved StarCraft so much. A lot of times when people think of Tasteosis, they think of these guys that are, traveling around in limousines and doing really well for themselves. And certainly you guys are doing great now, and that's awesome. But it did not get handed to them. It did not. It did not. It's not privilege. They made it happen, and they worked their asses off, and they did everything they could. And it's a really cool story.
Yeah. I got a couple others that have come to mind as well. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Kind words. There was a lot of foreigners that came down at the very beginning of GSL, and it was like some of them were really funny. Like for instance, Spades came to Korea, which we all found really comical because he was a Brood War player who was a map hacker. And he got a team to send him to Korea because everyone was jumping on the StarCraft 2 hype train. Of course, nothing ever came of that. There was a foreigner down here that was, I think there was something wrong with him. He stole equipment from the studio.
Oh.
He stole like a monitor.
I forgot about this shit.
Yeah, I'm not going to say any names, but he stole stuff. And then he wrote a really nasty blog about me that wasn't true. Like I never hung out with him, and he like accused me of all sorts of stuff I didn't do. So I think there was something going on there.
Man, the Wild West, dude.
No, there was some wild things happening back then. Oh, here's one. Okay, yeah, that company's actually gone now. Okay, so I was making a lot of YouTube videos back then, right? Because I was doing anything I could to promote everything. And there was actually this crazy moment at GomTV at the very beginning where someone from the company came over and told me, they're like, all those videos you have to give to us, those are ours. I was like, what? And they tried to explain to me that because I commentated for them, somehow this magically made them own all the content I make, and I would have to give it to them. And Nick was like standing there, and like we really needed this job, and it was like important to do GSL right at the beginning. It was like finally there's a paycheck and I can eat food.
Yeah.
And I basically told them to fuck off.
and they were like, but am I still hired?
No, I'm like, no, there's no way you are not getting it. That's mine. I'm not just going to give that to you. It's not happening. And I made it very, very, very clear. And we just kind of left. And Nick was like, whoa, I guess it's good that you did that. And I'm like, yep. And nothing ever came of it. So I guess that was fine. That was really weird, though.
The original cast of chicken. Nice.
Yeah, no, it was. Ooh. But yeah,
there's a lesson to be learned there, though. Sometimes what you have to do in esports is actually one of the most powerful things you can do is say no. It's not expected. It always catches these companies off guard because at least for now, most of the stuff comes from the perspective of like offer to you. You of course say yes, and then they kind of move on their way. But sometimes you'd be like, no, that deal's not good enough, or it's too predatory, and I can't do it. And the company has that like, motherfucker, what you say? And you're like, oh shit. But in this case, you're okay.
Oh, there's actually one other really quick story for GSL versus the World. No, it wasn't called GSL versus the World. What was it called? That all-star match that we had, where it was the foreigners came over and I was the coach, and then it was against the Korean teams, and we came within one map. Whatever it was called, people will remember it, especially if they go look it up. It was like Huck and Sen and White Raw and Damaga and Jinro and Hydra, I think, was there. And yeah, I don't know, a couple other players. TT1, I think, was there. But yeah, anyways, that was a very fun and interesting time. They were all put up in the GomTV house, which was like supposed to be what No Regrets doing now, but it really super didn't work. It was such a dumpster fire the entire time.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of stories involving that house that I won't get into right now, but yeah, no, that was a very interesting time, and there was a lot of egos at play at that time. And because we lost by 1 map, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get to put the players out in the order that I wanted to, because 2 of the players were a little bit on the egotistical side and wanted to be able to say where they go, and they weren't put into the best matches. So
Yep.
that was kind of a heartbreaker, because it's like, well, I mean, what can I do here? Oh well.
Should have been
Anyways.
Datosis, man. If I was
Nowadays,
that team player
get
looks at me and
those
says, I don't
pro
want to go out
gamers
right
in
now, I'd be
line,
like,
man. Get my whip out.
I like it. Someday we'll write our books. There'll be some interesting things that go out there.
Yeah.
Nice username. Thank you for all your contributions to StarCraft. You are part of the reason esports, Twitch, and competitive gaming is what it is today. Don't you agree? How does that make you feel, and how do you feel about inspiring so many young adults to pursue jobs in the industry? Thanks. Thank you. So yeah, like I said, it is funny for Dan and I to say stuff like this. I'm going to go ahead and guess Dan doesn't disagree with this, but yeah, we were part of a lot of it, which is really, really nice. For me, it's very humbling, and which is ironic because I'm the one that has to like answer this question. I'm supposed to let somebody else say it, but I'll say it for myself. But what I take it as, and what I've learned over the years, is it's not always going to be that way. There's not always going to be people that are like listening to you and honored to be a part of what you're doing or whatever, or at least have the perspective that it's not always going to be that way. And I try to appreciate it and honor it for a long time, because I always like public speaking. That's something that's like in my blood. I really want to do that. I like entertaining. I'm at my happiest when I feel like I'm producing content that people really enjoy. So the fact that StarCraft allows me to do all those things and do it to a degree that is interesting and exciting and fun for me is a huge honor, and it's something that I cherish. And it's nice. It's funny though, because I am hitting that stage where I do feel older, because there's a lot of people who now are like, oh yeah, my dad played StarCraft. You were one of his favorite players. It's really cool. I'm going to college now. I don't play StarCraft, but like, it's funny because you're a household name for me. And I'm like, shit, I guess I am 15 years older than you, and your dad is, just a little bit older than me. It's a weird moment. It keeps happening.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for the kind words there. Nice username. Yeah, I guess it's an interesting thing, because I don't feel old at all.
Yeah.
And I know I've been around forever. I don't know. I guess it's just kind of funny. Like I'm happy with my life and where I'm at and what I'm trying to do, and continuing to try to, do better. How do I feel about inspiring? I guess it's interesting to watch the people that come after. Some of them have really, really great success. One of the things that I thought was really funny was when the Forbes 30 under 30 stuff started, right? When that started to pick up, and like I kept on seeing friends and colleagues get these awards, I just looked at it and I was like, oh, that's funny. I'm just like too old to take part in this. Like, right? And I almost wanted to compose a tweet where it's like, myself, DJ Wheat, Red Eye, and Carmack want to congratulate you guys for getting these awards. Like, but no, I'm happy for everyone to achieve what they can and try their best.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep doing that myself. So
I was just talking about this on my stream earlier, but one of the things that I really enjoy is like Smix is a baller ass host, and she's off doing some other games. Calaris, I think, has become one of the best hosts I've ever seen in esports, and he has a very active career in other games. Nathanius is off doing a lot of stuff with like Twitch Rivals and stuff like that. A lot of StarCraft personalities and content producers. It's weird to say it this way because it sounds defensive or something like that, but I'm not. I'm actually like a kind of Papa Bear proud. They go off and they do these other games, and people are like, Jesus, where did this guy come from? Who is this person? And they're like, oh, he's a StarCraft 2 commentator. She's a StarCraft 2 host. And they go kick ass. They do awesome. I'm proud of them. And there's more to be offered as well. Like there will come a time when Maynard is presenting an award in front of a bunch of shitty Australian actors and actresses or something like that.
Yeah.
And people will be really happy. Zombie Grub will be leading like some kind of book club in Virginia with a bunch of cats. They'll be like the first sentient cats, and she'll be able to talk about books with them, and it'll make its way on to the Ellen DeGeneres show or whatever it is that they do, and people will talk about it. So there's so much more to be had out there.
Oh, Jeff. Yeah. No, it's...
Rubby's going to say one meme too many.
I'm glad they
actually get banned from Twitter. Proud of these people. GG Emily 19 asks, Jeff, you mentioned that you might fly out to a Cheeseadelphia this year. If it lined up with your schedule, will you be attending the event on the 20th of this month? No, not this month. This month I'm commentating WCS in Burbank, California on that month, or weekend rather. I say this, and I don't think it's resonated with too many people. I've been on a plane traveling to a place every weekend except for 3 this year.
Whoa.
3.
That's crazy. We're in April.
Yeah. And I have my schedule on my phone right now. It doesn't stop until like June. I will like to be at Cheeseadelphia if I have a weekend to do it. It's fucking bonkers. It's one of those things too where you know, like a person stays in outer space for longer than any other person, and weird effects happen to their body, like their bone density decreases and stuff like that. And they learn that when you are at an airport and you have someone's, you know, like boogers being sneezed onto the back of you, or their feet are next to your hands for that long. I'm not a killer yet, I guess what I'm saying is, but like if you do see me in the paper, know that it happened from there. Mark Oberts. If you guys don't know who Mark is a professional golfer. He used to work at Blizzard. What can Worker X do to make StarCraft keep thriving? Your typical bronze scrub like me. So Dan, like a typical Mark question, you need to unpack the deeper meaning here, because I'm not entirely sure what he's getting at.
Well, Mark is the person I talked about a lot during the episode about the downsizing. So yeah. Mark has already done more to make StarCraft grow than anyone is ever going to really understand.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. This is a hard hitting question here. I feel like Mark can do anything he likes and be very, very successful.
I know.
What can someone do in general to keep StarCraft thriving? I mean, watching it is very good. Telling your friends about it is very good. Those types of things, like viewership, is a very important metric. I think that especially people like Jeff and I feel that, because we are on the air all the time. And the more viewership goes up, the more likely we are to get into more self-sustaining things like selling more skins or war chests or whatever, or getting more sponsorships and things. So, I mean, at a base level, I think viewership is the number one thing that can occur. Everything kind of comes from that.
Yeah. Like I said, like Dan said, that Mark is an incredible architect of a lot of what we know and love about StarCraft as a presentation. So the question is a humbling moment for us to get it from him, but it's an opportunity for us to say all the little things. And I know that this is kind of annoying to hear this again, but it really does matter. If someone makes a YouTube video that you like the content, take the time to actually click that like button. If they make more YouTube content that you enjoy, actually subscribe to their YouTube channel. It doesn't cost any money. I know that you can just like search for it and go to it anyways, or wait till they tweet it or something. But those little clicks, those little likes, those little even commenting on the stuff costs you $0, but it actually really impacts these people. And of course, it's stuff like our Cobra spends a lot of time putting our show in podcast form. So if that's what you prefer to do, please download it and then make it actually subscribe to it. We just made a sales deck of this show with all the numbers. The better those numbers are, and we can go to sponsors and be like, here's the metrics we're hitting, here's how much people participate with our content. The better we can do, and the more we can sell, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, and it's just us. There's other things too, like, you know, Dan just started a show with No Regret. Check it out. If it's not for you, fine. If you really believe in the content and like it, though, do what you can to make that content go further. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. There's a chat of people here that have done incredible things to support StarCraft. So if I'm describing you, thank you so much. If you're sitting there and you don't follow some of us and follow our content because it's just kind of too many clicks and you don't want to cloud your social media. I hope other people don't feel the same way, because sometimes that content will go away if it's not being followed by stuff. So that's the easy, free stuff you can do. And then, of course, there's more, but we always talk about it, so it's cool. Yeah, I think I said that. So yeah, upvote and stuff on the podcast. Whatnot. Marique, Artosis, venting is good. What's more frustrating, TVP and Brood War? Losing to something awful, like a Faith-style DT drop that you know is coming but wins anyway? The WTF build that just gets there somehow, or the I never had a chance of facing a top Korean?
Okay, so frustration is an emotion, and when you start to show emotions within the game, it generally can mean something. Like, obviously that it means something to you, but like it has to do with understanding as well. I feel like I personally don't get frustrated dying to top Korean players. If you're really good and you bash me, and I played Jaedong recently, I played Sharp a few months ago, Rain a few months ago, and yeah, they definitely they killed me. But you know, it's like you look at that and you're like, wow, this person's a lot better than me, right? Like I know what went wrong here. Like they had so many, like Rain had so many units at the right time and crushed my attack, right? Or it's like, wow, Sharp's micro is unbelievable. Jaedong's micro is unbelievable. He's just so much better than me in this regard. Whereas if you, for instance, like a Faith style DT dropper, people that don't know, this guy was a notorious DT dropper. It's like the only thing he did. He only dropped DTs. It was his only build, and he was one of the top foreign Protosses. It was disgusting.
French Canadian.
By top, I mean complete trash. But anyways, he did well in many tournaments because DTs, you can't see them. It's wild. They don't even use mana to do that. But if you're like losing to something that you kind of know is coming, there's something you don't know, right? And it can be very frustrating because you're like, I know this shouldn't work. What am I doing wrong? And I think that's where frustration arises. So the first and second examples are definitely things that can be frustrating if you're losing them a lot. Whereas if you're playing a top Korean, you get frustrated by that. If you do get frustrated by that, and I've seen this before, where some people, they'll lose to one of the best players in the world and get really upset. There was specifically a foreigner that came over for GSL in the GomTV days, so cross on that story, and he got bashed by like a champion and started to like cry and was so angry, was like hitting his keyboard. But the thing is, this guy was like worse. He was like the worst player at the qualifier. And I was just in shock to see that, because like the amount that this guy doesn't understand, when you get that emotional, it's because something's happening that you don't actually fully understand. You don't comprehend what's happening, right? If Michael Jordan dunks a basketball over him, is he going to cry and stamp his feet? No, because he knows that fucking Michael Jordan can dunk a basketball over him, just like this top player could kill him there, right? So if you get angry when a really, truly great, tested, proven player is beating you, then you really are out of touch with reality, like truly. There you go.
Good answer. I think the best way to really get Dan's feelings on this, though, is to tune into any of his streams at all, where he is continuously just playing TVPs for about 45 minutes before they Arbiter recall that 17th time into his production line and he dies.
It's You don't see me get angry, though, when I lose to a pro, man. I'm just like, whoa, he's good. Damn.
Woo. Depends. If they're Protoss and they proxy one gate in the middle of the map and just micro the shit out of a couple of Zealots and Dragoons, I don't know that you appreciate it so much. You'll be like, look at this guy, look at this caveman. Then you check his stats and he's like 86-2, and you're like, I guess it's probably pretty good. Last question. As we always will, or maybe not always, but should, we'll end on a Mr. Feardragon 64 question. If you could make one major improvement to the Pylon Show, what would it be? Could be something you haven't done because of money, connections, whatever. But of any single major improvement, what would it be? So I'll go first. The very obvious answer is that we hit a certain level of Patreon where I can send Artosis back into college, and he can study multiple subjects and kind of level up his just general intellect game. Every time I see him commentate, I can kind of feel his StarCraft passion, but what he lacks for in the ability to communicate that, he makes up for with, again, his just kind of plucky charm and his ability to convey raw emotion. But if he was able to couple that with collegiate level education and the wherewithal to just be able to process multiple subjects at the same time, I think this show could really go to the next level.
Probably could. I think you're right. I would probably just replace Jeff with Day 9. I think that would really. I think that's the best thing that we could possibly do here.
That's a lot of money you're asking for there. I guess it's a super hypothetical question.
The Patreon needs to be quite a bit bigger. Realistically, for improvements, I feel like I would be doing a great disservice to our team by even naming anything, because every time I bring up anything where I'm like, this might be nice, Cobra's always like, oh, we're already working on that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, my ideas come a little bit later. But yeah, I'm super happy with how the show goes already. And I think that we have things I haven't even thought of for improvements that are in the works. So no, I'm super happy with how we're doing.
No, you're exactly right. That is, the team is, Cobra is already, it actually happens that way, by the way. We're like, hey, Cobra, what do you think about this? And he's like, already doing it. Yeah. Sorry, it's been. He's
like, oh no, that's been on the list for a little bit.
He's actually too nice, because he'll do that. He'll be like, I'm sorry, we've been working on that for 4 weeks. I should have.
I'm like, dude, the show's already perfect, man. Just
no, we're really, really, really happy with the show. I guess to answer the question, I really liked how the BlizzCon show came together. The audience was super loving and fun. Like we said, jokes. It was nice. We talked about Brood War. We had Day 9 on. We had Grant Davey. Like, it was just a really fun, cool thing, and it's a huge honor to be a part of anything at BlizzCon. It's not about money or connections or whatever. It's just more about opportunity, I suppose. But I would love to do it again, and I think it'd be really cool. And if that becomes something that people, count on and show up for, and we do more of that, and it continues to get Cobra involved with Blizzard people and that kind of thing, and you guys can expect a fun, because audiences just make things better too, right? Like, if every time I say a joke you guys just all are in dead silence and I awkwardly like smile and then kill myself on the inside, it just, it sucks. But when everyone laughs, it keeps me afloat for a while. That's why Dan's so important as a co-host, by the way. If Dan didn't laugh at my jokes, it'd be a tough show.
You're one of the people that really makes me laugh, so
thank you. That's the nicest thing I've heard today. That's very nice.
It's basically, now that I think about it, it's like just StarCraft commentators are the people that I think are funny in this.
They're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah.
I enjoy. Anyways, we'll take this off air. We'll just continue to be really nice to each other. Guys, that's it for the questions. So just thank you very much. Thank you everyone that asked. Next week and onward, we plan on having regular shows. So back to This Week in StarCraft, back to Patreon questions about anything and everything. We'll report on the GSL, which was really exciting and awesome, and WCS as it continues to unfold before us. This has been really fun. We had some laughs. We had some close to cries, and I thought we did a really, just thank you guys for contributing and being a part of this. Because again, if nobody listened to us, nobody cared, Dan and I would still do it. It's just that it would be less cool. We'd still be talking about it. Let's end with a friendly reminder real quick of the people that make the show very possible. If you want to support us, you can through buying stuff on AFKT. As per usual, like and continue to support the show. We appreciate that. It's good stuff. You can go to Matcherino, and you can put in the code INKTOSIS, one word, INKTOSIS. Please do consider it. This is kind of when Mark asked the stuff you can do to help things. Matcherino is working alongside a lot of stuff. So, for instance, like Base Trade TV is doing the Rifkin is Back tournament or whatever. They're doing a Matcherino. Always check that kind of stuff out, because it actually costs you no money. But if you max out these codes, it puts real money into these prize pools. Rotterdam's doing stuff with Clash. They're doing public tournaments trying to support people that are below the pro level as well. Really cool stuff. And then we, Dan and I, Matt, and the team are just making this show and making this content. It's also at this time, I should probably mention, we plan on doing like a show match in the near future as well. We've been we want to do that like every season of the Pylon Show, basically. So that's something we'll iron out and work out in the next few weeks or whatever. We're sorry that it hasn't happened already, but that's some cool content we'll do. Dan and I will commentate a couple of players playing for some money or something like that. You can also buy shirts and some wonderful gear through Matcherino. Matt and the team continue to put out some really cool stuff in there. And you guys got some mugs and shirts, and you tweeted at us. We really appreciate it. It's really cool. So just thank you all. if you do go that route. It supports the show, supports the people. You can also support us by checking out our new partnership in Fitness in the Making. This is an app that you look out through your phone. They will hook you up with some professionals that know how to get your body hard. And I believe they can even help you with your diet through that app. Or if they can't now, they want to in the future. You can do a 7-day free trial. But if you just click through that and kind of peruse and check it out, please do consider that. Because again, they sponsored us. They gave us actual money. And this is a guy that comes from StarCraft, and this is his new foray into business, and we'd love to support that. They also have an Instagram where they post a bunch of fitness memes. And if, again, you check that stuff out, please do. I got asked, how do you let them know that you're checking them out because they sponsor our show? I think the best way to do it is just like to literally just put it in the comments on Instagram or email them through their contact. There is no other like explicit way to do it, but he also is tracking clicks through this. So that is just by doing that, you're doing that. We also have a Patreon, and Cobra's been showing that a lot. These names are incredible people that have been supporting. Some of you guys have been supporting us, like I said, a year now. It's absolutely stellar, and it's absolutely incredible. The big spenders, you guys are amazing. But even if you're just $10, $2, whatever it is, it means a lot to us. We could not do this show for free. It's just not the way things work. Dan's got a family to feed, and I am addicted to Warhammer 40,000 models. So
both noble pursuits.
Oh, super. Yeah, absolutely. So those are the best ways to support us. We'd love to grow that number and do more things like pay our staff better, pay the people that come on our shows better, and pay ourselves better, to be completely honest. If we can, that'd be great. So please help us out with that. Last but not least, the show is not done by just Dan and I, hardly at all. Cobra puts in a crap ton of work and effort. Really appreciate that. Alleluia puts timestamps out, by the way. This is something that if we didn't do, people would think I had literally pissed in your cereal. So please, thank them. Alessandra, like we said earlier, she puts together these notes that are incredibly comprehensive. But the show is awfully pretty. Dark Furs. Lich and Famous helps with the merchandise. Joey's been helping out with a lot of stuff. Body Pop does a lot of what makes this show just look good. And these people are constantly working on improving all these things too.
Such as our WebDevs. They're the two people building our forum.
Diaxis and NeosteelEnthusiast, they're building the forum, and they've worked on some other things too. Thank you to these people. It's just amazing. I'm humbled and honored that there's people spending significant amounts of their time and their like skill to help our show be good. So I hope one day I can repay it in kind, but just please know that we just can't do it without them. They're awesome. So what you guys in the audience can do, if you ever see them, give them a hug, thank them, follow their Twitters. If they do projects, please support them. I don't know. We'll find ways to try and make it worth their time. Also want to give a shout out this time too to Frudgy. So at the beginning of the show, Matt played 2 videos. The one where I'm explaining the future of the Pylon Show that he cut together. It's really funny. He's got a YouTube. You should check it out. And then the Dan one. What's the Dan one again? Oh, that's you explaining like American football. It's from our live show. And
yeah, I remember that.
Oh my God, they're so good. And he does a lot of content like that. So just thank you to Frudgy and the various different people that make content. Because this game's got some really awesome people. So thank you to all you guys. Appreciate that. Dan, what are you up to? Any final words to sign off on, my friend?
It's been wonderful. A great year. Looking forward to many more, as previously mentioned in the What Are You Going to Be Doing in 5 Years? Thank you to everyone, as Jeff said. Yeah, I mean, I've been a little bit busy lately. It's just like a time of the year that I get a little bit busy, but so my stream, I've missed like a couple days here and there. Mm-hmm. Sorry about that. The stream, it'll be back and completely regular as much as I can in the future. I'm doing a new show with No Regret called In Depth. You can check that out on my YouTube. It's on Mondays.
2 episodes are out.
Yeah, it's just we just go over replays, really nerd out over some pro replays. People seem to like it so far, so if people want to check that out, that's great. Other than that, just thank you for watching the Pylon Show, and come back next week as always.
Same for me. Just throughout this, we had a couple people donate and sub to the channel, and just like I said, on a regular basis, there's people saying they really enjoy the Pylon Show, and this is the content that they enjoy. It's not falling on deaf ears, and I try to do everything I can to relay that to our team and to Dan and everybody, and just know that we love you guys. It's just amazing. StarCraft's It's the best game ever made, and the fact that we get to talk about it and there's people that want to hear us talk about it means a lot. So thank you to everyone that supports this with your eyeballs or with your wallets or anything in between. The show will resume. That's the amazing thing. We don't plan on taking any weeks off or anything like that, and we've got fun, cool content coming. Cobra and team's working on making the show prettier and enhancing it and doing new stuff. If you guys have ideas, there's a feedback thread on Discord about what you like or don't like, or what you would like to see. Can't make everything happen, but it certainly is helpful to just let us know. You guys are amazing. We appreciate you checking us out. I'm sure we're going to host somebody in StarCraft as the show ends, but for us, that's it. We'll see you guys next week, and thank you all.